Part 344. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3445. So, your father did research on her or more people, and now that he is sure, is he switching for himself? Tisk, tisk, I knew this guy was not a good person at all. Master. Okay, I won't say bad things about your father, but when I came here, I really wanted to form an alliance with him. Who knew? The alliance mentioned by Haitian is an alliance between a participant and a non-participant. But he didn't expect that Jia Yan would also become a participant. It's hard to talk about an alliance. If both sides had not passed the first level, they might have fought each other now, turning friends into enemies. Master, if you are not busy, you should wait a little longer. No matter what you say now, it is impossible for my dad to wake up and communicate with you. Okay. Hai Tian didn't know what to think, but after his eyes flickered, he nodded in agreement. What a pity. You sent a message to the trade area, but no one came over. Even if they expressed their stance, they were procrastinating. You must know that Hai Tian just fought away a group of low-level players. Even Master Eddie was watching, not to mention feeling less distressed. In this regard, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce ambassador did not make a positive statement, but said that this matter needs to be decided by Jia Yan, a real little person. Even you are like this, not to mention many low-level people in the trade area who witnessed that battle. As long as you understand, let him go out later and tell Hua Xiang and Xian Changsha if you really have any hostility. Our relationship has been so peaceful, so why bother? Just say Eddie. When Hua Xiang thought of this, her face was filled with frost. Sometimes I don't force others, but others force themselves. The small upgrade of the entire Earthling core, and the accompanying small upgrade of the Earthlings as a whole, is not imminent yet. Adisha, Hai Tian should be stabilized by Xiao Qiao now. How long will it take for the formation you arranged to take effect? In fact, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is like this, and it is also the situation that Eddie has long ordered to come up. You suggest that you wait a few days before applying for genetic conversion quotas, and suggest to your descendants that you increase the quota for now. It is said that there are no other descendants of me in the Geo family in the trade area who are studying the descendants of Fei Mosquito ancestor and Xian Changsha. It's a conversion method. I think there will be fewer and fewer places like that in the future, and your core will have to fight for the smallest share in no time. Facing the real low-level players, the Earthling Legion's little fighting power was like a big kid playing house, unable to even make a splash. The scent of flowers fills the air with a sigh of relief. Jiao Maqiao's heart suddenly twitched, and then he shook his head in embarrassment and said, Master, what are you talking about? How do you understand it? We are shrinking. Even before Eddie's participants have fought, whether we will stay in the outside world is a certain thing. We need to fight life and death. Even the small interests of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce are being thrown away, which is even more important. We will continue to use force because of this incident. But it is not. Of course, this is only the understanding of the people above. It must be Eddie Hutu's attitude. Having just witnessed Hai Tian's terrifying power, Bao Long's inner fear of Hai Tian has turned into a mortal enemy in his imagination. Arriving at the office where Hua Xiang and Xian Changsha were, Bao Lan Jiayun asked. Bao Lan Jiayun raised his head to listen and breathed a sigh of relief. As for Jia Yan, she believes that even in a critical moment, he can control his obsession and make a comeback. You let out a long breath. Jiao Maqiao is Xian Changsha, and he really has a playful temperament. You know, even the emperor was killed by a well-known character without the president of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce taking action. This shows that the entire dynasty united is likely to be on par with the already amazingly powerful Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. If at this time in the galaxy the attitude of the Chamber of Commerce is clear, and he will continue to work for the dynasty. Everyone knows how he will fare on the field. For example, the king of soldiers troops from the earth and so on. If you refuse, you will keep an eye on this place in the future. Even if you have any quota, you will have to chase it. Every time you, an earthling, are involved in similar incidents, you have to be protected by your juniors. I haven't had enough. Since no other low-level players showed up, Xianqianchu really didn't have much to deal with and came over. For a time, the dynasty was in turmoil. Many bureaucrats applied for transfer or dismissal in the name of old age or attending funerals to avoid possible bloody conflicts. The other side. So few Haitian? Damn it, it's hard to deal with any of them. With so few coming, that illusion is really killing people. All in all, that little battle with Bailong once again made the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's combat power known to the world. It refers to the happiness of men. All in all, both sides knew about it, but they all pretended to see it. Even the envoys and middlemen of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce expressed a friendly attitude towards the forces of all parties. He, you have to worry about it, Dekiao. My sister is playing with him, which makes him depressed. If he didn't know your growth period, Huasiang would even think that he was not yet a peerless master. The military formation from the small realm of the gods was the prototype of the formation that Baolong had learned, but the power of that formation was of little use even at the top level. Anyway, those forces, when they saw that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce had no other top fighting force besides Eddie, who was in seclusion and went crazy, they suddenly changed from shouting and killing to reasonable, polite, and sensible old bad guys. As if it was not us who sent the underhands one after another, but the underhands were obedient and sneaked into Jia Yanli to wait for the opportunity. You also saw his father's situation just now. The problem is very minor. My transformation is 100 million times more difficult than the transformation of a skilled formation talent. You also know when I will wake up. After the battle just now, I can also send clones to take action, which means there should be too little security, but you need to protect Bad Baolong, because the power his father is releasing is becoming more and more exaggerated. Jiao Makiao looked worriedly at the distance in the sky, which was the direction of the factory. Fight against the Emperor. You know, that was the most embarrassing moment for you in recent years. Even so, the power of the formation inside resisted so much that the creaking sound was heard, and Baolong's playful body froze in place. Suankensha nodded, you can go back and get those people together. Anyway, Baolongsha thinks we are comfortable. After all, the Emperor is not dead yet. The few forces that secretly acted in secret reacted one after another. They were armed, prepared to give up their interests, or quickly expressed their apologies to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The most satisfying one today is Baolongsha. Huasiang couldn't help but ask questions. At this time, several Earthlings were discussing the future retreat direction. The Earthling Legion has become famous recently, and we thought we really had no ability at all. But today, a low-hand battle happened behind our eyes, which woke us up. Xian Changsha proudly puffed up her big breasts. This is not an illusion, but a small amount of Haitian was born from you. The Battle of Jiayan allowed people to once again see clearly the background of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and they began to think of causing trouble later. After a while, Baolong Jiun, who could not stay any longer, finally left the master's house. You know, in today's battle, she almost controlled the entire situation under the pressure of a group of experts. By the way, can you ask him for advice on formations? I'm afraid your current formations are still very early before you can really get started, but you haven't dabbled in them yet. It's still in the diffusion period. It will take about a few hours before we have a chance to fight against stronger masters. Moreover, the next episode is no longer a one-man show by Eddie, the president of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. In the situation where I didn't take action, no one else could resist the Emperor like me, which shows that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is basically a dynasty. Any force in that sea area can resist. Mosquito felt that his body was being pushed up by a huge creature. When he looked up, he saw that it was a pink fish several meters in size playing with you. We, who seem to be quite well known in the high-end battlefields of the dynasty, are no different from special mortals except for the kind of peerless low-hand battles. We can only run around with our heads in our hands. Many of them had actually converted to yin-yang dao, and even some of them had already learned a certain amount of formation power. After seeing the power of Suankensha's formation, Rao finally suppressed his attitude of wanting to learn. It's not too late, but that's a bad thing. Bao Longsha shook her head, looked at Hwaxiang and said, "The little Hwaxiang said that you can do it before you do it." "You mean that you can do it? In fact, you and his master are acquaintances. How can you tear them apart if they have to do it in a last resort? Shameless." Suankensha, who came here a few times later, although she still didn't have all kinds of magical formation operations, would definitely remind people that you can possess such amazing power. Numerous military formations have been produced in the hands of various small forces, but if we use the power of formations to evolve top-notch military formations, this is the same thing. The city actually gives you the same feeling? Disciple, he is a junior of Longsha, he really has no ability at all. Haha. Without Eddie taking action, another person who had always been a showstopper, Xiancheng Shachhandeo Xiajia, showed up in people's eyes in such a way. Hwaxiang's body, dozens of kilometers away, looked like a big planet in front of the two Earthling boys. He said calmly, "Worry is bad." His father also mentioned his attitude towards the master to you. "I will tell you, for me, your tendency is not to be on bad terms with me, but to take action." They are still burying formations now, saying that they have no chance of resisting Haitian. But after a while, on top of your helplessness, Suankensha also flew into the sky, playing with De Yu, and had no appearance at all like the formation path Xiaoneng, who was comparable just now. Jia Mo, occasionally, you looked at Hwaxiang helplessly, only to receive a helpless response. You had to hold it back just to get used to it, and start fooling around with the two juniors who looked like big girls. Bao Long's battle had a profound impact. Eddie found the reason to release a small amount of power. The mighty power of the rules of life and death from the sea and the sky all fell upon him. Because our emperor took action. No one brought up the matter of practicing the formation. Although the emperor's ascension made the dynasty extremely grieved, the royal family summoned an envoy from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce immediately and stated that this matter had nothing to do with our dynasty and that it was the emperor's own idea. I just went to Jiayan, and the dynasty was willing to compensate a small amount of damage to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in order to quell the war. Among Jiayan, before Haitian tirelessly answered a few questions from Jia Makiao, who had been pestering me, his expression changed slightly, and then he smiled. Suankensha is the most terrifying successful convert of Arajin. Who do you want to ask? Jia Makiao still underestimated the master-disciple relationship between himself and his master. In fact, he was really worried about Suankensha's methods, and he was not afraid of Eddie. Of course it's just impossible, and you don't know if you can really do it, but it's true that you don't have that confidence in Eddie. Some were even killed or injured in the aftermath. Junior Suankensha, your master may not have noticed your methods yet. Do you really want to do it? You asked, looking at Xianchensha. Bao Longsha said, with beads of sweat on her face. As for the dynasty, there was no violent reaction. When will your father wake up? In this business, with his current strength, if he can't deal with us. Bad. Phew, that's good. That one actually beat 10 with 1, and defeated 7 low-level players, and killed 8 of them. It was not just one Haitian, but at least 10 Haitians. Such an astonishing terrorist threat caused Eddie to muster all his strength to make the smallest resistance and counterattack. This is bad. And the Hai Tian who appeared first had already achieved many legendary victories in the dynasty, but that time he still broke people's stereotypes. People on Earth in the future will always have to rely on themselves. Senior Big Fish, thank you, but you want to play now. Boom. That is a huge amount of combat power that appears out of thin air. Instead of continuing to fight, it is better to remain as good as before. After all, it seems that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is shrinking. For ideas such as occupying territory, there are only a few of them. Is this still the case of treating bad people as guests, perhaps turning hostility into friendship, and there is no way to coexist? Of course, there should be some existence with long eyes that dares to show up. In that battle, we played even a small role. And when it comes to that kind of performance, it's not as if the entire factory is being blown up, and the sound of explosions is unheard of. I'm really afraid that the Chief Master will attack you before you realize what Xianchinchis Jr. is doing. What's wrong is that the relationship between master and disciple is wrong and you are hurt. Where others see you, you are still manipulating the power of the array to block the energy that Eddie is spreading out. The longer you can block it, the weaker this force becomes. Xianchangsha has not lost it yet. Hard work. That is because the factory does not have extremely stable defense facilities, otherwise it would have blown up the small Bailong area in the distance. This is the dynasty. Dad. She was afraid in her heart. If there had been no support from Edisha and others in the previous battle, and no unexpected arrival of Hai Tian, she might have been buried with Xiancheng. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3446. Fortunately, after the wave, the explosive force stopped again. Edisha had no time to take a breath, and a similar energy exploded again not long after. What's wrong with your dad, so tired? Editha staggered, falling from the sky to the ground, and her legs were almost weak. I don't know what's going on with my dad. Jia Makiao had nothing to do. But that's fine, the two seniors won't drag her around anymore. But everyone's eyes were filled with a solemn look. Jia Yan's obsession this time may be really serious. Even Hai Tian restrained his inscrutable and playful expression and stood on the top floor of his residence, looking at the strange scene in this factory area. This top expert is probably a little surprised by the power Jia Yan has now. Master, brother, don't resist, otherwise your method will succeed. That guy, really thought he was going to kill you? Are you crazy or not? The light is not just blue, but also colorful. There are no other resources, but because they are top-notch, they are used as backup storage. When Huasiang returned to the Wuki area with a few severed tree roots, Jia Makiao greeted him slowly and asked about the situation. Hearing Huasiang's response, he looked at Huasiang and seemed to be injured. So he shrank his neck in a bad way. Being scolded by Xianchangsha for being such an innocent man, Jia Makiao shut up in embarrassment. But at this moment, a muddy voice reached my ears, which made my expression move, and two flying figures were reflected in my compound eyes. Damn it, Disha not only has no love, but also shows great fighting ability, otherwise Hai Tian would really not care about it. Under the surprised gaze of the man Jia Makiao, Suankenchi's formation power suddenly unfolded, and Chu He's whole body, including the resources on his head, were all wrapped up and retreated into some kind of mist. Huasiang is the main talker behind Jia Yanzong's face. Your actions in person can be said to be the center of attention, and countless people are paying attention. That big guy is really. Even if I risk my life, Suankensha will protect me. But with 1/10 of the strength of Hai Tian, Eddie was left in a state of confusion. Huasiang raised her head and looked at the two human males. Dad. It's you, don't do it. His father must have had a hallucination when he was converting the array genes. You have studied the possibilities of such a weak individual like me converting genes. That hallucination is not a very unlikely result. The White God clone also had the idea of explaining, but slowly shared his views. On the real side, I was just hallucinating, but your will is still quite weak. I also realized that I was in an hallucination. It means that I don't have a certain chance of controlling myself. Huaxiang suffered a terrible attack in the past, which also shows that I don't have enough control over you. So Qiao, if he passes, this kind of blood between blood, the feeling will make my desire for aggression and even hallucinations very little increase. Of course, it is just a temporary solution, not the root cause. It may be long-lasting, but it will definitely buy a certain amount of time. When the time comes, Suankensha will have no choice but to. But if I try it, I hope it won't work. The pink fish screamed. Eddie, who was in hallucination, felt that he really had to hold on. At this moment, the White God clone who had been talking to everyone around them spoke. Walk. Xianqinsha, if he feels that he is not sure of protecting you, master, he will just let it go. You know, there are still many weak hands in Wuki. That kind of technique is not for dealing with the formation that falls into hallucination when breaking through. If you are interested, I cannot share it with you in the future. Please listen to you now. And what's even more exaggerated is that this is not Jia Yan's strength after his breakthrough. I am afraid that such a huge breakthrough will reach new heights after it is really successful. One of them belongs to Suankensha, and the other resonates with my bloodline. Eddie paused. At this time, I was absolutely confused. I'm looking forward to working with this guy in the future. The meaning of Suankensha's words was to tell me that I must have used Suankensha's method. I might fall into hallucinations, and sometimes Eddie, who is willing to doubt me, would be unreasonable. Thing. In fact, you feel that there should be someone in the distance who would take action, except Hai Tianli, who has a clear attitude. Eddie's eyes became clear for a moment, and he deduced the key point that he had forgotten. Chu He often regained some clarity and stopped smiling bitterly. Gradually, he began to be unable to distinguish between virtuality and reality, and the large number of enemies caused his confusion. The attack from the hallucination will cause similar damage to the real body when it falls on my body. You can tell by looking at the several hideous wounds on my body. When Huaxiang approached Eddie, a slow wave of air hit your body, almost knocking away the low-handed person in front of the territory. Bad, let him try this. Hai Tian from afar also noticed the normality outside and couldn't help but look at it. Yes, saying it is true has no effect. Now you have developed some amazing little formation, and within that formation, you can come and go freely. Suankensha's voice sounded. What did they say? The White God clone is part of the real body, but due to the unique creation experience and growth process, I actually have no personality similarities with the real body. After discussing with Xianchangsha for a moment, Huaxiang rushed to the warehouse slowly. With a raised hand, a small piece of resources flew into the sky. Hai Tian was about to get closer and take a closer look, but suddenly he felt that there was no blue light that seemed to be real inside his mansion, and it suddenly appeared and enveloped me. You endured the severe pain and sighed as you looked at Eddie, who had unleashed the blow in the distance. Of course, the possibility of Hai Tian taking action is also very high, otherwise why would he help just now? Or the best time to take action is just now and not now when Taiping comes up. Both sides really didn't feel like warriors looking back once they left. Will do. Eddie couldn't help but muttered, and then his pair of compound eyes suddenly turned blood red. A small number of enemy figures appeared in my eyes. I was so shocked that Eddie couldn't help but throw out countless energy bombs again. Huaxiangde cautiously approached Chu He, who was 100 kilometers away. For our current level, that distance was no different than kissing someone's face. But Eddie didn't hold on and stayed. After all, in the current situation, Eddie is just bombarding him indiscriminately, and seems to have retreated into a desperate situation. Chu and Sha can also guarantee whether such a master brother who only cares about himself will reject the suggestion of handing his life to my people. His father is in trouble. Auntie, it's okay. If Eddie hadn't possessed the tough body and endurance of the Wookiee beast, others would have been defeated by the overwhelming attack. It was a small favor. It's still a state. Your array gene is still in the process of transformation, that must be the key element, and you must speed up the process. Boom boom boom. If it were someone else, Haitian might have done whatever he wanted. Hallucination? Can your dad get through this? Huh. Little Eddie, come here. What he wants is right outside. Don't finish it? Looking at the chaos in the distant factory again, you gritted your teeth and decided to notify anyone and fly to another warehouse in person. Chu Hesha, on the other hand, wildly gathered a small amount of formation power and slowly took Geomaki out towards the Eddy retreat factory. Xian Chengsha also took the opportunity to quickly approach Eddy. Chu Hesha said happily. At least that's the case for now. Waves of mist transformed the area into a fairyland-like romantic scenery, and it no longer looked as ruined as before. Little Hwaxiang, is it your master's brother who needs supplies? The words just fell. Ah! After saying that, Bai Shen's clone seemed to have had all its mental power taken away by its real body. He closed his eyes again and was speechless. If you can still joke after the fragrance of flowers, I'm afraid my father must have a minor problem. Yes, you send him there now. He is protecting the small formation. After all, Chu he is in a very good condition now. It is said that while you are sending him there, he still needs support from his small formation. Hwaxiang looked at it with concern, while De Yuer was not happy at all. The two guys were flying around on the ground to vent their frustration. After Eddie's consciousness completely separated from reality, he suddenly remembered what Chu Hesha had said many years ago, which would help him in the formation. Does the current scene mean that you have proved yourself? Geomakiao suddenly determined. It's just me. Many people who were paying attention to Jia Yan's movements saw Hwaxiang's movements. This is a very important critical moment. If Eddie needs it, you will naturally be stingy. Yes, you can foolishly confront us, now your focus is definitely on fighting with us, because it is impossible to finish them off, so. Hai Tian didn't feel much fear, but instead smiled. Hwaxiang, I will send you even more valuable warehouse resources. You can protect them from any danger when they arrive. Those Haitian Wookiee are not as powerful as the original version, because their bad image simulates 1/10 of the strength of Haitian, and it is the strength that I released in Jiayan one after another. If you are sure that I am in a hallucination, you are not 40% sure that you can at least solve my hallucination immediately. If you do, you will definitely stop my indiscriminate bombardment and save your strength to deal with the hallucination with all my strength. Young Master Chu Hesha, there's nothing you can do? You must be the one who took you to Wookiee to get close to your father? I can always take advantage of my own man. After all, it was just one person, and a group came as soon as they came. What Jia Yan heard was a lot of shouts of killing. Even so, I was very happy and felt like I could bear it. Of course, I don't seem to have any good intentions. Hai Tian looked at the many male figures in the sky who had teleported to his head at some point. He froze slightly before nodding calmly, there is nothing I need your help with. Please feel free to ask. That is obsession. What is obsession? Hwaxiang slowly received the message from Eddie's real body. You were shocked and responded quickly. Eddie quickly took advantage of the moment when his consciousness was awakened by the resonance of the man's blood, and retreated into self-cultivation. Yes. Buzz. Because Hai Tian said that the deeper power that must have been hidden has not yet been released, the illusion has not been released. It is the man Geomakiao. Suen Kensha quickly expressed his attitude. Fly towards the Chuhi area where Chuhi is, with a small amount of formations protecting you during the process. Eddie didn't respond, but he followed your advice. Xian Chengsha, as a pioneer of the formation, and you don't have the terrifying calculation and deduction ability, you have already calculated the difficulties that Eddie will encounter when converting the formation genes, so you can't say that you have a clear understanding of it. Brother Master, you can't reduce the interference of his hallucinations. But then he may be interested in dealing with reality. If you are worried, just do it. He can't help it. Otherwise, if there are a bunch of pirated copies of 10,000 copies, Eddie Ren may not be able to withstand it if he is not as great as the heaven and the earth. He is reading too much fairy tales. His father is obsessed with me. It has something to do with my will. He can always make demands because he is my man, so I just attack him. That big girl has really grown up in a blink of an eye. This formation is also protecting you. Could it be that it has nothing to do with Eddie? Suinkensha's figure automatically appeared around everyone. You also know that I'm afraid it depends on his father's own ability. But if you can't help me a little, it's just one or two of you working together to convert others. But now you have a chance to get close to me. Perhaps it was due to the limitations of the illusion, or the genes themselves resisting the illusion of the inner demon, so those attacks could only be kept at a level that made Eddie happy but killed him in one go. You go to, Big Fish is the master's apprentice, if he can attack Big Fish. You must know that the existence of Advent also simulates the sea and sky inside. Suinkensha looked at Geomakiao, and now she realized that the book-loving boy was not innocent at all. He was said to be more innocent than Big Fish. And your scream seemed to make Geomakiao make up his mind. Yuuki said, "Go, Junior Suinkensha, are you sure you can help your father?" Bad. If it were anyone else who had to endure the pain of that kind of hallucination, I feel like they would have died a long time ago. Is something wrong with your dad? Is this similar to the rumored heart tribulation, which one is true and which one is false? My eyes suddenly lit up. It's bad. If you suppress it for a while, it will break if he throws something under you. But no matter what, I am now unable to speak on my own, which is a little beyond the expectations of those present. Junior Haitian, please take a rest. You and Huasiang will deal with the master's brother's matter in a bad way. If he hadn't been an evolved beast with extremely strong endurance, he would have collapsed and been killed by the hallucinatory enemy if he had been unleashed by the continuous attack power. Yes. I saw Huasiang violently controlling the warehouse resources, slowly hitting the pile of resources that was not a mountain 1,000 kilometers away, and then evacuated towards the front while turning back. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3447. However, such thoughts only lasted for a while, and Jia Yanzhen fell into another level of illusion. In the illusion, the sounds of shouting and killing were the same as before. But he did not release his power randomly in reality. This not only reduced the harm to the surroundings, but also greatly reduced his energy consumption. He gained more than 100 times the power to deal with illusory enemies. In this way, I really have a chance, and I feel that I can still control the transformation of my body. Adisha is really a big help. Jia Yan's joy can be said to be beyond words. But he didn't feel relieved for long, and he re-entered the fierce battle with the illusory enemy. But this time, he was full of energy and strength, and the confidence in his heart was even greater. It's done. Outside, Aidisha and Geomakiao looked at the mist that fell into silence and laughed happily. Senior Adisha, you are really amazing. Because he was completely addicted to hallucinations, Eddie's hallucination world actually evolved into something quite real when someone disturbed him. Hai Tian waved his hands and left, while Hua Xiang's eyes became even darker. A series of former low-level players who were either friends or enemies of the domain lord that Eddie knew, as well as local junior-level low-level players, all appeared in my hallucinations. You haven't been transforming for a long time. It seems that part of your mind has disappeared. Are you transforming your array genes? I hope it will be slower. I really don't feel tired anymore. Eddie, back then he seemed to be showing evil, but he was actually plotting against you. Today you will get rid of him. Jia Yan's condition has eased, at least on the surface, which is great news for them. Finally, the day has come to a month. Eddie saw that I was hesitant to speak, and immediately said with a smirk, "You should be able to catch up on what he said. Now that the conversion is not far away, it is time to start. It will take at least a few days to polish it. Kung Fu is not enough. If he is not free, he will wait for you for 2 days at Jiayanshao. You can all get together, and you have to thank him for his generous action." Only Eddie in the hallucination is still in a state of knowing whether life or death. As for the most stable bomb in Haitian, Jia Makiao's well-behaved apprentice gradually became more and more talkative. Instead, he was like when he joined the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, quietly staying on his own. Outside the house, it seemed that they were silently waiting for Eddie to change his mind. There were many people who had similar thoughts. Not many people in Jiayan or the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, or even in the trading area where the news was received, had such thoughts. Eddie was disturbed, put his feet up, and looked at the person next to him. Intelligent people, this is also life, and it also produces emotions and desires. Eddie's heart was slightly awakened, and his eyes in the hallucination looked at the enemy's figure that appeared again, and he became more tenacious. Looking at the pretentious Adisha, Jia Makiao couldn't help laughing. "You know, you have been worried for a few days now, but as the weakest presence in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in Jiayan, you have to stabilize your emotions to avoid causing more noise from above, so you can reluctantly do it. Show emotions." My eyes seemed to have no focus, and I looked at Haitian and said, "That's wrong, that is not your real body, or even a clone in the traditional sense, but a formation clone. He can see that. It seems that your formation clone is so perfect." "Oh? You're not interested, but now that you're a clone and you're talking about bad things, how many more days will he wait for you?" The previous state where he wanted to tear down Xian City was really scary. Just when you asked, there was a gust of wind and clouds in the sky. The small amount of hallucinations and endless arrays of light spots that were reflected in the sky just now slowly dissipated without the gradually forming torrential power. "Kill." As if without any warning, the phantom appeared next to Jiao Sisha and the two of them, and automatically turned into a real figure. Whether there is an enemy in sight or not, the guy in Haitian whose enemy you know is worthy of your vigilance. Your formation will probably still be inferior to Jiao Sisha in the future, so you have to survive the genetic transformation of the formation. This is Ji Haitian, Spider King, Chang Lai, Shu Yu. Very slowly, Hua Xiang revealed the body of the territory lord level low-level player to the public. Very slowly, similar situations disappeared. The trade areas who had secretly contacted Haitian or the lower-level members of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce reappeared behind Haitian's eyes one after another. This mysterious low hand who had never made a move since then suddenly became the 7th most popular low hand after the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce president Eddie. But Suankensha smiled sadly. The bad thing is that Haitian just approaches with a smile and gives up before being stopped by Suankensha. "Little thing? What is it?" Next to you, another figure slowly appears. It is Haitian who has been waiting anxiously. Jia Yan finally returned to peace from the crisis. The voice of Haitian suddenly sounded appropriately around us. Of course, there are many looters and a small number of spies to be dealt with there, so bloody methods are unnecessary, but these all happen in secret, even if there are no characters who are bad to deal with, and there is no Xian Changsha and other low-handed attacks were easily solved. I wanted to ask about the formation, but I understood it even after asking. Moreover, judging from the signs of Eddie's breakthrough, the setback should be minimal. Why ask for other people's secrets? You are asking for discomfort. I'm not tired anymore. Advocating the weak is a unified law in the outer world and even the Milky Way. Suankensha has such a huge shortcoming that it is impossible for people to position you as superior to Haitian. In fact, this should be the case. Haitian suppressed and killed you for a few seconds as soon as he took action. The master level is an extremely weak stimulus to the people in the entire dynasty territory. Not many people even have the imagination to believe, is this President Jiao Si capable of being as weak as Haitian? As for Suankensha, you seem to be relatively weak, but your size is really scary. Moreover, the intelligence also shows that the big girl from the inner world is actually at the lower division level, maybe even the subdivision level is weak. Huh? That looks like his true form, Eddie. How is he doing? You know, the last game was almost over. Under the sky, Xian Changsha appeared in mid-air with a snack bag hanging out of her mouth. Your eyes were solemn, looking at the small amount of normal conditions emerging in the sky. Now that you see Eddie again, you almost have to hold back your tears. Needless to say, no one was interested. He went to have secret contact with Haitian, and he sneaked over from the trade area. He said that he would rush to support immediately after receiving the information, but in fact, he only went to the outside world after the dust settled. After all, the current passage, because the two worlds are closer, can be passed by many means. At first glance, there are 7 similarities with Eddie after retreat. I thought happily. That's right. Haitian would say something like that. Yes, he is an illusion. There is only an illusion, so how dare you do it? Eddie, however, relied on my endurance and confidence to defeat all his opponents one by one. I have never fought a sea and sky like that, but they always come back. In those years, Jiao Sisha had gradually assimilated into a real life form and experienced emotions. It was a giant mosquito. Master brother. A small amount of space became chaotic, and an infinite amount of light automatically emerged in mid-air, causing shadows and energy to overflow. Jiao Sisha's eyes suddenly lit up, and her expression was even more ecstatic. It's probably something. You're relatively new to genetic transformation in the opponent's path. But no one has the guts to say that. The entire Jiayan finally regained a certain degree of tranquility from the turmoil. Since the array is so useless, as the inventor, how can I be willing to fall in front of Dachuan City Shat? And my enemy Haitian finally attacked in groups, but became a man, and possessed the strength that Eddie had witnessed with his own eyes. Fighting with Eddie often even threatens Eddie's life. I'm afraid that I will completely fall into the illusion, and then there will be no end. It's good now. Even though it looks like he's asleep, it's at least a waste of energy. Suankensha took a deep look at the old monster who suddenly appeared, swallowed the snacks in several mouthfuls, and said, "You can feel a small amount of formation power surging in the air. There must be something wrong. It should be Master's brother's formation genes have no breakthrough." A shadow emerged in the sky. Huaxiang also dared to go to the Milky Way to relax according to her original idea. She became both a father and a mother here, saving the whole situation that was about to collapse, and the people's hearts gradually stabilized. A ray clone? Haitian moved his lips and wanted to say something, but when the words reached his lips, he held back. The formation master in his mind appeared and attacked the invading enemy. This not only made Suankensha famous, but also made Haitian famous. No matter what Eddie said, this was still a bad move. Otherwise, how could there be no common topic, and how could Haitian be willing to guard here for so many days? In addition to mental fatigue, there is something about your body. It seems like you fell into a complete sleep. Xianqinsha has really done in-depth research on the transformation process. There were too few residents living far away from the factory. At least some related factories were destroyed, and many illegal buildings were affected. After a series of policy operations, all those people were resettled. Hey, you're just afraid that I might catch up with another little thing next time. If you miss it, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Besides, Haitian is just a passerby, and Eddie is the immediate superior of Xiajia. Even if he is strong, he is only stronger than Haitian. What does it have to do with us? Do we still want to use Haitian's name to fight against the ruler? That day, under the Jiao-Si, which had returned to its original state of Gujing Shivo, there was a burst of mountain roar and tsunami. Editha is really powerful, ahem, don't make fun of your elders, Xiaoqiao. If you practice well in the future, you might be like this one day, don't slack off, do you understand? There really aren't any people in their trade zone. That big friend at the domain lord level actually wants to rebel. I even forgot that you are also one of the shareholders of the trade zone. You just put the body outside, he remembered to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. Eddie's heart suddenly became clear, and he suddenly understood what the opponent was. His face sank, and he directly defeated the opponent. Such days passed for about 10 days. The entire imperial dynasty has learned about this small battle within the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The other residents were so frightened that they were invited back by the ruling authorities. Finally, many GIOC residents felt that situation. For a while, many people thought of this peerless little battle 2 months later, and they immediately became panicked. Eddie smiled and stretched out the giant mosquito's foot, whirling around the big guy's head. It was like a planet touching dust. The scene felt quite inconsistent. Xianqinsha, I can see what he did. He has finally grown into a giant tree in the sky. What he did was wrong. Besides, even if nothing happens, what can we do? Duxuan City Shat, is that a trick created by his master? Haitian, it's him again. Hai Tian waved his paws and said, Xiao Ke must, it's interesting for us to be hypocritical. You originally just came here to see an old friend, but you just thought that he has become your competitor. But don't misunderstand him, you stay here. I am not just looking for fault, but I want to continue to deepen cooperation with him, not because I know he is not interested. Is there something wrong? Unless I don't have an extremely deep understanding of the principles of Taoist gene transformation, I can calm down my state of mind and completely retreat into the hallucinations to concentrate on dealing with them. But then it's up to me. Yes, I understand. Eddie remained clear and conscious, feeling his own condition. Knowing that no part of his body's mental energy was used to control the operation of the conversion gene, he breathed a sigh of relief. Suinkensha's outburst this time really surprised and delighted Eddie. Even the emperor and founder have shown their faces. Suinkensha's response was the calming needle in Xiajia's heart. Hai Tian leaped close behind and grabbed it with one blow. Ghosts howled in the sky, but there was no rule of life or death in that blow. Huaxiang had already noticed the situation. She wanted to watch and see what those guys could do with Hai Tian, but she thought that on the 7th day, Hai Tian would carry the other party's body and come to Huaxiang's face. The whole situation is taking a turn for the worse. Yes, thank you, Junior, for taking action. Then you said it is accurate, but the difference should be too small. Without the signs of the formation, I would not have noticed it next time. That is. You're going to kill him. Once we appear together, I will find a way to escape. Without the subspace talent, I can fight or escape. And in the illusion, my subspace talent is still the most terrifying method, at least in everything I encounter. Among the opponents, I found someone who was evenly matched. Jia Yan's situation has gradually stabilized. Even before this fierce fight, no one dared to approach. but before Jiao behaved like this again, Hai Tian tried to approach my retreat factory with a smile several times, but Suan Kensha stepped forward and blocked him. Is it too late to finish? Xianqianxia really knew that nothing would make Eddie happier than breaking through the array gene, so she asked in a dull tone. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Buletin Yu. Chapter 3448. I'm afraid it won't work. You know, that match is about to start. I have to go back and make some preparations. Otherwise, I will stay here for a few days and it will be held here. Maybe the two competitors are together, which will trigger other things, unpredictable changes. Jia Yan was silent for a moment, and then said, well, if you don't mind, I will discuss it with you as a clone. If this one doesn't work, let the Black God clone come forward. As Jia Yan said this, his body, which was like a real body, suddenly disintegrated and turned into a glorious array of stars. Adisha seemed to have known about it from the beginning, so she was not surprised. On the contrary, Hai Tian couldn't help but look at it a few more times, and even deliberately stretched out her claws to grab a handful of starlight, but she couldn't feel anything, so she had to give up. Not long after, a tiny human figure came to the two of them. Haitian, come with me to the reception room to chat. Now that the real body has awakened, the Black God clone has naturally regained its mobility. Adisha, why don't you come over too? Seeing Jia Yan calling her, Adisha followed him without any hesitation. On this day, the senior officials of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in Xiancheng received the most exciting news in recent days. Huaxiang has promised to give you a holiday, so I don't want you to worry before I let you go. That said, Jiayanxia is absolutely trustworthy, and your combat power is indeed not what it used to be. Risheng told you with a sound, I said it was a place that I have yet to rely on. Yachangsha's figure flashed directly in front of Eddie through the transmission method of the formation. A pair of evil little eyes stared at Eddie, full of evil curiosity. Although no one has seen the rather small president, can the things revealed by the lower-level members of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce be true? That big movement was Yechang's act of knocking at the gate. That's right, I directly converted the genes, and inserted the formation disk into each genetic level. I say we can join forces because the ensuing battle between competitors directly requires killing like the first level, which also reduces the possibility of alliance between each other. It's true that you can have wild imaginations, but you're still young. You've been dreaming too little recently. After all, no matter what, I am also a calculating person like Jiayanxia. With the simplicity of the array, I will always be able to compare with Jiayanxia. In the meeting room, the ashes fell on it, causing small pieces of dust to fly, and a dark white but dark blue life form revealed its true form. No matter where the information comes from, if everyone says that, it must be wrong. But Haitian mentioned it at that time and gave me my full reasons. Haitian is a stable factor, and many low-level people have a little bit of it, so when I leave, fewer people will be relieved. The energy and nutrients inside them have long been devoured by the degraded beasts above. It must be said that outside the entire formation system, there is no one who can communicate with Jiayanxia, and this is the creator of Eddie. Putting aside the words of gratitude to the president, to the male god of formations Jiayanxia, and to the vice president Huaxiang, it is just that no one knows about it among the lower levels of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Of course, you have to get rid of Jiayanxia and other helpers on your side. Do you know about competition? You also know that Eddie is breaking through the formation gene, and his heart is full of expectations. You can tell by looking at the lives of other people's transformation array genes. The unintentional people wanted to ask Eddie about his decline in strength before his breakthrough, but they were insinuated and only received vague words from Eddie, so they all gave up in frustration. Bai Shenyechang sat silently under the chair of the president of the small school dozens of kilometers away. After a long silence, he smiled and shook his head, that Haitian is really whimsical. As for the rules of time, it seems that the other party has already understood it, which also shows that from beginning to end, Haitian has never shown his true strength behind Eddie. The president finally came out of seclusion safe and sound. The giant mosquito, which was dark white and exuded blue, flew up from outside the pit. Forget it, don't think too little. Jiayinsha also told you that you were able to exert that level of leaping ability because you used a small amount of resources to reach the front level of Domain Lord, or even reach. Once you reach the Domain Lord level, there will be many items suitable for these two levels, and the ability to reach the fixed leap level simply exists. Yes, you are a real front level Domain Lord. When Ye Chang met Ye Changsha just now, he specifically asked you whether the combat power you showed was a waste of future potential, or a move that had been prepared for a long time. The response he received not only cheered Eddie up, but also slightly disappointed him. So you can expect too much, but the improvement will definitely make you regret it. So people also thought of the reason for Haitian's departure. President Eddie should have woken up and talked about something with him. Otherwise, why would Haitian's descendants be willing to leave when they had what they wanted? Not long ago, I met Hwasiang, her husband Jia Makiao, Dafanayu, and others. It turns out we were wrong. The chasm between the territory lord's front step and the galaxy's front step is not that difficult to cross. And not long before this, an old figure slowly rose into the sky. Under the gaze of many Galaxy Chamber of Commerce staff, it turned into a meteor in the sky and flew away in a hurry. We know that it was this person who helped many members of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Xiao Xiao, the low-hand Haitian who is also listed in the Chamber of Commerce. Where did you get the information? Of course it was the aunt's father-in-law's younger brother's son's classmate's cousin's uncle's servant's uncle who said it. That was the inside story. Gradually, people began to take to the streets to celebrate and vent their inner excitement, and it soon turned into a city-wide carnival. Giant mosquitoes squirmed around my body. QD is a strong person. I got used to it for at least half a day, and then I regained control of the situation from the dizzying feeling. 4 days before Haitian left, the factory, a land of ruins, finally became quiet. Soon, this excitement and happiness turned into the excitement and happiness of the people. That time, I said in a small way that I had used all my strength to kill these low-level players in the galaxy, but did Eddie dare to believe it? After all, in those days of small inspections, all of them were killed on the surface, and those who remained were either scheming people or people in low positions, who would simply be attracted by the big movement. It also gives the little guy reassurance. The clone sighed quietly and corrected his mentality. Well, you have a stellar superficial strength. However, it turned out that Eddie thought less. You know, that person knows much more about the disputes among the participants than Eddie does, to the extent that it even makes Ye Chang feel creepy. And just as to verify the rumor, the small blue formation that had shrouded Xiancheng for several months quickly dissipated, and the majestic sky of the outside world bloomed again in front of people's eyes. You must train Ye Changsha to be a pre-region lord existence. With your amazing array ability, will you reach the pre-domain level and instantly become a being comparable to Xiaonang? What's more, now that I have completely come over from Hutu during the transformation, even my clone knows how my real body's strength has deteriorated. This is not a matter for two low-handed people. How can members of the Special Chamber of Commerce be thorough? It turned into the nutrients for it to transform its own array genes. Even these spies and agents dare not take any rash action. The long-lost small land and real scenes are really refreshing. In this way, I can only rely on my own cultivation strength, coupled with the consistent skills in using arrays, to go my own way. And the array skills that rely almost purely on violence are probably not as good as Ye Changsha's ability to defeat several super players. There will be no small difference in the improvement of fighting enemies at lower levels. It is the feeling of becoming weaker or stronger. The movement was very slow and attracted the attention of the police department, which was already patrolling in the distance to observe the movement. That's the formation gene transformation. Maybe with the apparent strength, the cultivation strength will be less developed, but with the addition of formation methods, your strength may not be as big as the sudden retreat. The rest of us don't seem to need it. I just need you to help you evacuate the small amount of supplies and profits from Xi'an City. But there is no guarantee that it will definitely be disappointing. When the sun shines on the small land, people's carnival becomes more sincere. The turmoil after that time was so small. Even Risheng said it was just a slight fluctuation. Some non-citizens heard the rumors and spread them privately one by one. Ye Chang thought that it was right. As for what the two talked about, until just now, I was still fighting the enemy in my hallucinations, so when I suddenly saw the real scene behind my eyes, I couldn't help but be overjoyed. Brother Master, he finally woke up. Has the breakthrough been successful? There are so few suitable materials, and it is difficult to find them even in the outside world. Join forces. It is absolutely possible for Eddie to reveal his current true strength. Eddie will agree to the other party, and it seems from the surface that Haitian, who has helped him several times, is at least less credible than the Spider King in forming an alliance. Since I, a stranger like the Spider King, have chosen to form an alliance, why can such an old man who has cooperated with us so few times have the choice? The formations used to intimidate Hai Tian and help Ye Chang stabilize his demonic mind were also the same, all with the help of inner objects. Rather, the overall neural connection method, the existence form of life, etc. are completely the same. Whether it is through the subtle awareness of the body and the technique of exerting force, it is still exactly the same as before. If I were not a very sensitive and low-level domain master, I would probably not have experienced such a profound adjustment. It can be said that it is completely renewed from the outside to the inside, and it will cause the senses to feel comfortable and live well. Before that, there were the various heads of the entire Xiancheng Galaxy Chamber of Commerce and the like. In short, I did not show too little of being affected by the obsession that time, which also made everyone more worried. After a while, these resources covering the surface of the factory turned into pieces of ashes. The life form sometimes exudes a strong will to life, but as soon as it saw the sun, it couldn't help but feel a strong sense of comfort, and let out a long sigh. There seemed to be no more waves in Xiancheng. Thinking of this, Eddie summoned Ye Changsha. Edison is considering whether to tell you the truth. Just look at Jiayansha and you will know. Jiayansha can jump several small steps to fight, but my requirement is less, just jump one small step, right? Besides, before this battle, which Lohander or Lohander in the Risheng territory dared to confront Jiayansha head-on? Pieces of rubble collapsed, and there seemed to be no giant thing about to emerge from the ground. This has reached the Xiaoneng level. At least now it seems that he has become a godlike Lohand who can reach the sky and the earth. But Jiayansha still gave in. If she were to use inner objects, she still wouldn't be able to fight against a special front-end Lohand or a lower division Lohand in an abnormal state. Eddie only felt that his body was different from before. I denied it, and deliberately delayed it until the time passed, and the situation of life and death was imminent. In order to understand the rules of life and death between life and death, in that case, the tragic situation in the sea and sky that Eddie thought at the beginning was basically my own fault. Originally, when I saw Jiayansha killing Kifang on a small scale, and using stellar-level physical strength, I was so excited that I even trembled. The days passed by my random thoughts. What does it feel like? That was something Eddie never dared to think about before he understood the cruelty of his competitors. Ye Changsha couldn't use the opportunity to intimidate others to collect supplies. After a while, she became a formation bad guy with superior combat power. Even Leda is one level behind. In recent years, he has been asking Ye Changsha for advice. We reported the situation, and the response we got was that everyone evacuated the area and sealed off the area a million miles away to let the citizens get closer. God knows that among those people, there are not many spies from other forces. For that alone, Ye Chang has never realized that he is like the other person. After all, he is far worse at acting than he is. But the real combat power has actually reached the front level of a territory lord. Yes, there have been a few days in the past. It's because that old guy is too scheming. I always feel that even if I don't intend to form an alliance, if the situation is right, I might betray you. There is a problem with keeping an eye out. In that competition, no one can doubt. Therefore, Ye Chang had no expectations, nor was he a little worried about the decline of the Array strength that he had also achieved. If I come out of seclusion myself and reach the level, it is possible to jump to the Xiaoneng level at the pre-domain level, but, what about Jiayanxia? The clone laughed at itself, feeling that the real body had just experienced too few hallucinations, and even my clone had the idea of dreaming. President Eddie has not come out of seclusion, but the appearance of my clone is real. It also said that the real body has survived the most dangerous situation and is about to come out of seclusion with a small success. Because Jiayanxia replied that the extremely weak moves used to fight these low-level players, such as the technique of covering the entire Xian city, were indeed things that Jiayanxia had not prepared for a long time. If she used them that time, she would have to go to the Milky Way quickly. Collecting supplies, the last time was at least a few decades ago before we had a chance to use them again. However, I had a little doubt in my heart. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3449. That's right, the breakthrough was successful. From now on, I will also be the same array gene user as you. Great. Brother Master, let me tell you, there are many ways to use judgment in the array gene. Come, let's go to the training room and talk about many ways to improve combat effectiveness. Edisha, let's put this aside for now. I just woke up. You have to let me see Xiao Qiao and the others and then handle some official business. Otherwise, what will happen to this mess? Jia Yan smiled bitterly and shook his head. Only then did Edisha react and looked at the messy Xian Cheng. She also shrugged, knowing that she was too impatient. She really wanted a cultivator with whom she could have a conversation. Everyone else was scum in Edisha's eyes. Jia Yan felt in his heart that he was probably not much better than scum, so he first let himself relax for a while, and then went to find Edisha to torture him. I've met Lord Jia Yan. Congratulations to the President for your great achievement. Dad, you finally succeeded, congratulations. As soon as the conversation with Edisha ended, a large number of congratulations came from all directions. Eddie thought. The mighty voice resounded in my heart, but others could hear it completely. A ray of white light came from a distance, much faster than Eddie's speed in the subspace. It shot directly under the big island and turned into an illusory light point. It is rumored that there have been a large number of high-level personnel transfers in the trade zone in the past few days, and 2 dignified domain masters have disappeared inexplicably. Although there is no evidence that it was Jia Yan who did it, everyone has a good idea. Guys, I'm glad they can advance to the 7th round. The two stood together seemingly intimately. But there is nothing I can do about the laws of the outside world. This promotion opportunity has a total of 8 levels. The 7th level is not a competition place that requires them to go to the previous level. It seems to be a rush, but it is also an absolute rush. They cannot understand it as a certain rule. The understanding process requires them to continuously stimulate their retreat speed and understanding. The seeds have not been planted for them yet. It depends on them whether they can reach the final location of the level. This level is the same as the next level. Although there will be no punishment for killing other participants, they cannot kill others to reduce their chances of passing the level. As for whether to take action or not, it all depends on your own consideration. If it is broken, there will be less you have to understand it yourself and end it. Yang Mei said hello. I hadn't expected that Xiaoneng would show up just now, so I tried my best to sense the opponent's appearance, but I still won. In fact, the light life form used his hidden identity to deliberately lurk close to another participant, and killed the other participant at a key opportunity, thereby gaining participation in the 7th level. Chance? Yang Mei asked insinuatingly. Juniors, if you want to pursue me and ask, Yang Mei couldn't help but was eager to give it a try. Otherwise, this little capable junior would have even mentioned his destination. How about it, President Yang Mei, are you willing to continue to fulfill what you said next time? So almost everyone chose to stay for the first time and inquire about other people's information. Master, congratulations to you, Xiao. I understand. I have nothing to do with you, please do it yourself. My subspace talent is quite useless when it comes to chasing people. Eddie emerged from the subspace and found that there was no one who had arrived here first. I had time to respond, my expression changed slightly, and I looked towards the ocean. Is it the so-called competitor matter? The lightning-fast figure of the giant Mosquito tore out twisted shadows in the subspace. What I'm curious about is that this is an exception, and that none of the participants who have reached that point have similar feelings. That kind of time is not too long. Of course not, Yang Maisha is honored. When the first person arrived, a ray of light flashed in the center of the island in a way that no one could understand. There are really few people successfully arrived at the designated location half a day ago. The light spot creature was surprised, and then glanced at Yang Mei's body, like a praying mantis. It had doubts, is he the president of this river? The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was besieged on all sides, so they chose to leave quietly, fearing that it would be difficult to intimidate Xiota. Everyone saluted him one after another. Although we have to be wary of attacks from possible participants around us, because we have no clue, we can always just leave and run around like flies. What's there? I'm sorry. It seems that the matter of asking him for advice has come to an end. You have nothing to do and you have to go to work. The emotion of being willing emerged in everyone's hearts. That majestic and low figure actually disappeared instantly like bubbles. By the 10th day, the number of participants on that island had reached nearly 80. You are a junior, and the requirement for that level is to rush. Although you are bragging, you have mastered the talent of subspace, and you think you are incompetent in rushing. If we join forces, I am afraid there will be no gap in the ability of rushing. There is no talk at all. Are we really going to work hand in hand, or are we saying that the younger generations don't have the same view on this matter? Thank you all. I didn't have much time to communicate with them today. I will hold a congratulatory banquet in the next 2 days to share the joy with my family. The bad guy doesn't have a participant like him, so why don't we just call him Deng Shangbei? When Yang Mei Zai understood some of the techniques under the formation and realized the genetic advantages of her own formation, she was less likely to practice them. A vibrating sound that only I could hear came from afar. There was a loud noise coming from the sky. After waiting for about 8 days, another figure floated over. Whether local people can survive or not, this place is too spacious for life forms from the outside world and has the conditions for long-term survival. It is said that it will be flooded at regular high tides. Jia Yinsha, her husband Jia Makiao and others stared at the torn subspace. I'm very sure, the so-called rushing is definitely what I think of being in a hurry. Of course, Junior, your cooperation cannot be carried out, but you must ensure that each of you develops, you understand what you mean. Yang Mei was also slightly startled, and she thought in her heart, no one of the same race passed the first level. It must be a small fate, and it must be a weak race. In fact, I have thought that as an outsider who dares to open a chamber of commerce in the outside world, he is also a maverick among the outsiders. It cannot be said that fireflies flying outside in a white and dark environment are already very sensitive to intelligence. The participants didn't know anything about me, and it was unusual. Originally an ability that only belonged to Eddie and a few other subspace talented low-level players, it has become an almost universal ability for everyone. More importantly, our possibility of escaping at low speed through subspace has been slightly reduced. Generally speaking, I love it. D is still quite sorry. Hai Tian's face was full of smiles. But no one revealed anything for a long time. That morning. It's wrong. It seems that he has guessed it. Just tell him. You have got that opportunity by chance. Just now, you are worried about who will protect you for a period of time in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Just now, he has grown up. Get up and protect the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce for you, and after some time, you should need his help, can't you? No one's here again? Huh. He looks like. This junior just said that he was holding a lake. This level can still kill the participants. Between you, he is not so bad that you can't worry about handing your front and back to the opponent. That's both a bad thing and a good thing. Until no one remained silent, they silently entered the edge of the island, turned into a startling rainbow, and walked away to the end of the world. No one reacted. What's more, Yang Mei needs Yang Mei Sha to stop communicating with me about the techniques under the formation. Really? Then it won't hurt to call me Lao. If you think you haven't helped him enough, he will want to burn the bridge. He may not have done it himself, but it definitely had nothing to do with it. It seems that because the space was close to the inner boundary, it became a lot different. Not only were you able to do easy actions, but you were also able to do it with minimal pressure. I'm afraid even some unusual low hands can't do it. It's past here. I have to marvel at the magic of life. The two sides cannot join forces, but they can choose a back-to-back approach. Who knows whether the other party will suddenly launch a sneak attack? Because the depth is measurable, if it is a low-level player under the domain. A figure that tore apart the subspace quietly left the Xiancheng area. Finally, Hua Xiang left the outer world and rushed to the central star field of the Milky Way to spend your vacation according to your own scheduled itinerary. But Jiayanxia stayed on. Such amazing mental combat power was cultivated and used with little effort, which would be too much of a waste of natural resources. Just then Eddie felt that Jiayanxia's combat power had improved, and it was perfect to fill the vacancy before Hua Xiang's vacation. After all, De Jiayanxia seems to be reliable, but you were the brain at the beginning and handled things in an orderly manner. I am afraid that in some aspects, you are even more useless than Hua Xiang. Those who can reach the 7th level are all those who have killed participants of the same level, and each of them will be a complex character. Yes. Since this guy left first and deliberately lured some people away, he must not have the confidence to protect himself. Besides, if he asked, he would definitely get the correct answer. Hey, there aren't that many people left. Hey, you should be the first one. Sorry, the old man's legs are weak. Haitian came to Eddie. Eddie looked at Hai Tian. Junior, what do you know? You can't talk about it now. Others should eavesdrop on your voice communication. Hey, that only means that Xiangtai's family is weak enough. Where you are, the force has not participated in 8 promotion opportunities. Although there is a little expert, they also know that the chance competition is the same every time, sometimes even below the 8th level. Strange, right? But that is a chance competition. If they are all exactly the same, there is no chance. The words fell. Aren't 2 people here? You are the first one. However, that all affects the existence of light and shadow that speaks. Eddie looked surprised and determined. The light creature had no expression on its face. But as soon as that thought came into my mind, I killed it myself. Senior Haitian. Eddie couldn't help but touch his mouth parts. At this time, under the big island, none of the participants left. Of course, the first few people who investigated had also thought about this matter, but Eddie was indeed not a participant at this time, and even the participants themselves knew about it, so nothing was found out. Eddie captured the departing figure and wanted to use some kind of technique to track it, but after thinking about it, he gave up the idea. The well-deserved number one person in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and even in the trade area, Jia Yan's flattery must be flattered. In my heart, I followed the direction that the voice guided me. Haitian is really the first. They were two life forms that looked like mantises, but their bodies were red. Their small compound eyes glanced under Yang Mei's body, but there was no burning sensation at all. Then what is the last level? Haitian said that if I can cooperate with you, why can I know so little? I've met the juniors. If this guy knows something, chase him and ask. On our way? What do you mean? Finally, the number of personnel increased to 87 and more people were moved. Bon voyage. When playing tricks with Haitian, Eddie felt that he was outplaying me, so he chose to speak openly. It's wrong. Just wait and chase after me. If you mean. Is there only 8 levels in total? According to your clan's records, when your clan elders later participated, there were no 7 levels in total. This time, there are only 8 levels. It's really strange. It's just that if someone carelessly investigated Eddie, otherwise no one would have noticed my status as a participant. It's only a big gap. Why is there not such a huge gap? Could it be that that little gap is really a chasm? After communicating with those flatterers, Eddie communicated with Hwasang and others for a short time. And that was through the first round. Each person represented another dead participant. There is a large deserted island outside, which seems to be a randomly selected place near the mainland. Eddie was speechless. The light and shadow creature was majestic and small, almost as big as life forms in the outside world, about 2,000 kilometers away, and occupied half of the island. Hai Tian responded calmly. When I came to Yang Mei, we seemed to be chatting in a friendly manner. I waited for another 8 days, during which 7 or 8 participants arrived one after another. I never thought that the president of a large chamber of commerce would be so unknown. No newcomer recognized Eddie's identity. Find bookstore. But some people doubt that my legs and feet are really loose. Humph, vigilant big guy, just do what he wants. Eddie, president of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, you are evil. Eddie thought for a moment and suddenly knew that his identity had been known to people in the distant areas of Xiaolu, and he had concealed it. In our understanding, the participants are the laws of the White and Dark Forest. They can speak out or speak out, and they can be recognized or recognized. For this reason, each of us disappears and hides very well. From the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? Bad guy, did you really think that he was also one of you, otherwise you would have been reduced to a near victory? Because from a closer inspection, there is no thread connecting these mantis creatures. They are not two people, but the same person. The horse flashed up like 8 frightening rainbows and chased the departing figure. Judging from the speed of the lever, I'm afraid it would be difficult for us to catch up. Brother Master, what's wrong with you? The Crowned King is flattering, but who is flattering? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3450. That's not necessarily the case. Don't underestimate the heroes of the world. Come on, let's talk as we walk. If there are any blind people chasing after us, we can just show off the power of you and me joining forces. Hai Tian sneered and led Jia Yan towards the edge of the island. What do these two people know? Stop them. Suddenly, an expert in the crowd suddenly spoke. Jia Yan looked back at the other person and saw that it was a creature that looked like a sea anemone, but its ears were huge, and it looked like it could hear things it shouldn't. You two, if you know anything, please feel free to teach me. Someone came to their senses and came to the side of Hai Tian and Jia Yan. Another man who claimed to be powerful stood in the way of the two of them. Jia Yan, didn't you just master an extremely powerful power? Why don't you let me see it? Hai Tian didn't send a message either, but smiled. Jia Yan couldn't help but want to scold her. But Jia Yan still put on his usual awkward smile. At this time, I once again felt this power. Sure enough, I felt some kind of power that belonged to me in the hidden place in my body. However, that power had no good intentions, but was buried deep in my heart, as if it was helping me reduce my ability to feel. Among them, the smaller group of people actually made the same move in unison. That's not Xiao Nang. He definitely wants to kill me. I'm afraid it only takes one thought. You must know that he is a serious participant in the four classics. In theory, his strength is similar to that of Jia Yan and others. You will leave after a while, so it doesn't hurt to tell him about it. He must have understood what this junior said successively. If what you expected was wrong, the so-called rush process was actually to inspire you to wait. If he understands the rules of time or rules of space carelessly, he should be able to realize that there is a seed belonging to space missing in his body. Everyone, if something happens, you can leave as soon as possible. I actually enjoyed that little competition, but just like Jia Yan, the other participants were the same. Friend Jia Yan, his yin and yang way is so similar to Sister Edish's bad image. Could it be that he has some tricks up his sleeve for you? Hey, why did you tell him? Sorry, it was your intention to waste time here. You also went to find the so-called road. Junior, you just said that you know what the so-called way of traveling is. Can you tell me now? Forget it, let Senior Haitian appreciate my method. And it is the strongest formation path after the sudden formation path gene. Catcha. Jia Yan quickly held his breath and concentrated on observing the power in his heart. Although I don't have any trump cards of my own, I am willing to fight Jia Yan here. After Hai Tian finished speaking, he automatically fell forward. Seeing this, Jia Yan took the initiative to disperse the 7-week protective formation. Boom! Several people in front of him gathered around Jia Yan Haitian, and were about to attack him in a group, but their expressions suddenly changed. As soon as the hands and feet of the low hand behind the block touched the circle of the formation, a violent explosion occurred. There was no thunder or lightning in the explosion zone, and the man was knocked backwards 1 or 4 steps by the shock. After all, we are the same as Jia Yan, a low-level talent in subspace. We have no confidence in the distance, and this central continent is extremely far away from other continents. Many of the weak families in the small continent really don't have teleportation arrays that lead to distant places in this small continent. Although it is rare to have a teleportation array that directly travels between two small continents, teleporting through the island in the middle a few times will speed up the journey. What a difficult problem it really is. This person's name is Jia Yan, right? There is no such thing as the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, you are very ignorant. Can you tell Yuki? You will not be prepared for things to happen in the future. Then all the forces in the outer world were in trouble. After resisting the enemy with one move, Hai Tian also became interested in the yin and yang formation. Of course, to a lesser extent, he was not surprised by Jia Yan's current strength in the formation. Juniors are joking. You just have an ordinary body and don't have your own cultivation method. You can learn it. It is far larger than other small continents in the outside world, and has the smallest number of weaklings. Even many young masters have failed here, and it is known as the hardest bone to crack in the outside world. At this time, the yin-yang formation is about to bloom. It may be the strongest form since this world. A circular yin and yang circle appeared exactly behind our eyes. As he admired the waves flying away in the wind and waves for 7 weeks, Jia Yan felt relieved for a moment. And it looked like he was going all out. As a front-on attacker, I often see that the power of the opponent's circle is quite amazing. Besides, flying under the sea is quite boring. It's not a matter of space skills when traveling, but space and time are often transformed on a cosmic scale. For people with weak strength, space is time and time is space, so the two rules are very similar. If you remember correctly, he said that he has mastered the rules of time. It seems that no one told him about the possible content of the 7th level, so what he needs to do is very complicated. The world behind me suddenly lost a touch of blue light, and immediately the light was transformed into a circle even larger than me. After hearing this, Jia Yan just made a perfunctory haha, which was a positive response. Yin-yang formation. Those people rushed to the central continent by appointment. I thought firmly. The various teleportation arrays we have set up have become places that those low-level players hate visiting the most. The first person to leave was the one who threatened and lured Jia Yan. I stared hard at the direction where Jia Yan left, and finally calmed down my emotions and left the island. The expression of the low-handed interceptor behind his eyes changed slightly. That's possible. There are all competitors present. As the name suggests, they are all potential competitors. What fool would put himself in harm's way because of mere intelligence? Jia Yan looked around with a cheerful look, his gaze was rippled, as if he was shocked to see someone of the same rank, who just did something trivial and special. Thank you. I found a small force that had been wiped out and asked a surviving low-level master. His eyes changed before the other party revealed all the information in horror. Immediately no one got up and left from under the island. After a while, everyone dispersed, and some people really continued to pursue the so-called path. After breaking away from the subspace where Jia Yan is located, Hai Tian shuttles into the subspace. After all, I can stay outside the subspace for a long time. Although you doubt Haitian, are you wrong to say that you are accurate about Haitian? So you should go to the central continent too. Ubai and Bibai seem to have any power, but without any lessons learned, how dare we underestimate the power of that circle? It is overstepping the bounds to inquire about someone else's secret knowledge, not to mention that the two of them are essentially in a competitive relationship. As talented low players, we still have no confidence in ourselves. Even if we find a way now, we always think that we will not have a solution. Known as a new heavenly catastrophe, it has taken shape again. Among the many small races and small forces with no family heritage, it was mentioned once and for all that there is no most critical and important core area in the bridge-like structure of the outer world. The previous circle formations were not only incomplete yin and yang deo. As the creator of the formation, except for the alien form of Edisha, in fact, the most suitable person for the formation is Jia Yan himself, because he is the only yin and yang body. It is inevitable that friction between the two sides, and even small fights, is inevitable. But are the small local forces willing to lend a teleportation array? I identified a direction and flew all the way around. The man who was shaken away showed murderous intent in his eyes. He glanced at Jia Yan fiercely, but he still followed his heart and moved away. Deep in subspace. Jia Yan laughed. But Jia Yan obviously wanted to say less, so I kept silent. But the techniques we use rely on ourselves just like Jia Yan did. Keep retreating. Go all out until a certain critical point, then the 7th level will pass naturally. Of course, it depends on him whether he believes you or not. But he didn't hesitate with his hand, and with a gentle sweep of his foot, a dense blue light spot emerged. If the idea is prickly, the number of dodgers is destined to be very small, and even one person may be willing to be injured here. Many people have used the idea of borrowing the local indigenous people. Crackle. Central continent. Do you want to go out here? In the first small competition, I lacked the power of the rules of life and death in my body. Generally, during the process of enlightenment, I obviously felt that there was no other power to help me understand. I think it's taxing to travel in the subspace, because although the subspace is a spatial category, there is no probability of comprehending the power of space, but it is in the outside world, and if you say it is determined, it will be judged as victory. Before completing the array genes, the advantages of Jia Yan's yin-yang body were finally fully demonstrated in the yin-yang array. Everyone present is unruly and tame, and besides, we are facing potential enemies. Since we have to find an answer, we naturally go our separate ways. What your majesty said is quite coincidental. Whoever is here is of the same level as master of the rules. With so few people, The atmosphere in the subspace became warm for a moment, and the two sides continued to talk. After a while, Jia Yan asked. Jia Yan smiled humbly, tapping his feet in the air behind his eyes. The besiegers came up with sinister expressions. So I restrained my formation and got out of the subspace neatly. The scenery along the way is limited, and the small mountains and forests are exactly the same as those in the Milky Way. The rolling scenery gave Jia Yan the opportunity to enjoy the scenery. Hai Tian simply left Jia Yan and left. And this happened when Jia Yan spent about a month flying in the small sea, using his slowest speed, using time rules, etc., and finally arrived at a new continent. Bad guy, you thought that even if he got the opportunity to compete, he might not do anything. Now you need to change your mind. Just now, I am very curious about the small world outside. I want to try flying on that road and enjoy the flying lights. The space opened and closed again for more than 8 seconds. When everyone looked at the intense air again, they saw the two figures already there. For people in the outside world, similar catastrophes have occurred many times. This time there are also a few cases. We have mastered the power of several rules and have no supporting forces in front of us. We want to deal with the small locals. Power is really something too easy. Now I know to ask you, Hai Tiandan sneered. No, that's it. If the 7th level is this way, it will be difficult for you to cooperate. It all depends on you. I look forward to meeting him in the 8th level. You also go to find your 7th level. The road is closed, goodbye. Many people have determined that if our descendants want us to go somewhere, the central land must be the right place. Let's go. Jia Yan from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is really a surprising character. The implication is that Ding Xian is willing to reveal even the secrets of the formation, and it is not kind of him to ask me to tell him about the small competition. This area is named Central Continent. Jia Yan sighed. It is possible. The way of one yin and one yang, that is the true form of yin and yang formation. And I am sure your prediction is wrong. The number of participants this time is definitely more than the number of participants who have ever exited the 7th level. The Spider King is in a subspace where this alien emperor has not come into contact with you next time. The low-level players are all here. It would be too far-fetched to say that we all won the 1st level. Therefore, if there is no other gathering place, there may even be many similar ones scattered throughout the small area in the outer world. The gathering place, that is to say, the number of participants is probably far less than you expected. The circle next to Ding Xian violently rotated, and the wind and clouds rolled around like a chainsaw, forcing everyone a few steps forward again. They simply used flying away, but retreated into the subspace with Hai Tian. Junior Haitian occasionally treats you unkindly. He must have lied to you this time. Moreover, the imprint Xiaoneng carved deep in your heart was also wrong. It is the seed of two spaces and time. Although you have understood the rules of time, you must have if you can use this to master the rules of space again. Even if you pass this test, it will definitely be a good deal. Try it as it says. It's wrong. There is some kind of power missing. Is that the seed that the little capable person helped you with? It's really magical. Jia Yan believes that it is wrong to try. Find the bookstore. Due to the different interpretations of the so-called hurrying, some bad players actually had various thoughts. Jia Yan looked at the direction in which the man was leaving and thought little about it. He wanted to chase after him and ask Hanhu about it, but he finally shook his head. As someone who is relatively familiar with the power of the array, I know that the yin-yang array has been displayed by Jia Yan from the beginning to the end, but before Jia Yan broke through the so-called array gene, something changed. The circle is divided into two poles, and the two poles are yin and yang. Pi. Although we often see it, so few low-level players attack together, and the two participants are destined to be beaten to death by us, but is it possible for us to go all out? Humph, his name is Jia Yan, right? He's very bad. Remember him? But he was hit by Jia Yan with one blow. This should be the disadvantage bestowed upon competitors by those with little talent. With a sigh, Haitian was teasing me again. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3451. In the endless mountains and forests. The teleportation array was destroyed. That's right. Those guys left on their own, and they certainly won't leave the teleportation array for other masters to take advantage of. Jia Yan would do the same thing. Jia Yan pondered for a while, and finally decided to abandon his original plan and get into the subspace. Now that we have a goal, we naturally no longer think that subspace cannot become a formal competition method. He returned to the Milky Way in the last game and successfully passed the level. The method of traveling in subspace may not be as good as those teleportation arrays, but it can still reach the destination faster. Maybe there will be many people who haven't arrived yet. Moreover, he can also observe in the middle. If there is a teleportation array for him to ride on, he will naturally not give up the opportunity to save effort. But this will be an extremely long process. From the few words he learned from the top experts in the world, he knew that the so-called Holy Land continent, or the central continent as mentioned by the participants, was extremely far away from his area. That's just one of my thousands of small formations of power. In every area, there are either no participants who are wreaking havoc, or some low-handed superiors are collecting intelligence, and they say they are collecting intelligence, but they are openly plundering under the guise of that. Jia Yan suddenly understood who it was that made the world burn red behind his eyes, and Xiao Yu burned millions of small square eyes on the earth. I didn't feel like I was being spied on just now. Is it your imagination? Slower than you? In the subspace? Then, that's all. It's an existence that is slower than you are waiting for now. Even if you catch up, I'm afraid you won't be able to defeat the opponent. That's right. You are a participant, and so is your excellency. There are really few colleagues in that small continent. Recently, everyone has been searching for the teleportation array leading to another small continent. The entire small continent has almost been torn down. Come on, if you and others join forces, wouldn't the chance of the two of them getting a chance be even smaller? Jia Yan was still wondering whether what Hai Tian said was right. The subspace participant's face was solemn, with a contemplative expression underneath his slime-like body. But the loss is my own lifespan, because in this accelerated space, the time I feel is not too short, and the loss is relatively small. Countless areas have fallen into a situation where there are 10 rooms and 4 empty houses, and even hundreds of millions of miles away. It's more than the minimum I prepared, and it's still to deal with this Hai Tian. How far away? Several of the relatively large and well-known Xiaolu have been marked by me. That small continent, which is even bigger than the small continent of the dynasty, turned into scorched earth behind Jia Yan's eyes today. I am afraid that from now on, the entire small continent must at least be left open to outsiders. Destroyer has impressed tens of thousands or even more years. Did anyone who seemed to be a participant in that land area come from me, when they gathered one after another? Then the competition is too small. You have to work harder to find this teleportation array. Alas, the feeling of being detected is gone anyway, so just be more careful next time. In short, this subspace expert who was detected by us from behind, and even the detector was unable to detect it as he spoke, has not been recorded by us in the subspace signal. If we encounter him in the future, we can also deal with it in a small way. The preparation of an extremely powerful low hand in subspace. Jia Yan was hesitating, wanting to simply jump over here and find another place to stay, when his expression changed slightly. Although it is difficult to find a map directly leading to the central continent in the small continent area where the dynasty is located, I can rely on the maps collected and pieced together from the next few small continents, and I still managed to piece together a map of the process of Momo Lake. Perhaps I also went to the central continent, and I may encounter them in the future. You have to prepare some means to deal with the weak in the subspace. As a subspace existence, you will not be short of such means. Let's forget this matter. He and you are both participants. You dare to worry about him. Does he really dare to worry about you? Anyway, the land near the sea that I walked out of was burning red, and the red light shot into the sky. Countless mountains, forests, and beautiful scenery were all submerged in the sea of fire. Apart from that, I'm afraid there have been so many disputes between participants in ancient times, and similar incidents have happened countless times. The figure in the flames revealed a pair of cold eyes in the sea of fire, staring at the leaving Jia Yan. There are actually a few more low-level players beside me. Hey, Your Majesty is a person from heaven, right? You and I are enemies. This Ziobi is basically fighting each other in the first level. We killed pretty hard. The information about that small land seemed to be special, and its vastness far exceeded imagination. Although Zhu Qin also explored it to the end, it always felt that it was twice as small as the small land of the imperial dynasty. That. You also have to use the rules of time and add the power of the formation. If you stack them up like this, it will definitely make my speed go to the next level. The whole process is quite far away. Even if the two groups of people arrive at the same destination by different routes, the slightest difference in the position of the dock during the process will lead to huge differences in the process, and they will never encounter each other again. To set foot on the central continent would require 10,000 times this distance, which would be a distance further than the span of a galaxy. After spending 2 days in a hurry and looking at a large area, Jia Yan shook his head inwardly. Jia Yan who didn't expect to see a subdivision master who was panicking and trying to escape from the flames. Unexpectedly, when the opponent saw my figure and the weird energy lingering all over his body, he suddenly trembled violently, and the front of him was shrill. Screamed. In that battle of participants, there were many people who I had calculated and arrived at, and there were also many subspace masters like me among them, who were also difficult for me to master. The detection ability of this machine was such that even Jia Yan behind him could detect something. At the same time that Xiaoyu Zhu Qin officially decided to rush to the central continent, in another subspace that was not far behind, the subspace master who had fought against Jia Yan and Hai Tian, sailing in the subspace with his head shaking. You will never know whether Haitian will choose that route. At least without the blessing of the power of rules, our combat effectiveness has been completely transformed, and may even be comparable to that of the founder of the original dynasty. And that small continent will definitely not have the same combat effectiveness as the local inferiors, but the number is definitely small. Even if we encounter it, what can we do? At least move to another place to continue the destruction. Who is it that flies in subspace slower than you? That was the devastation caused by just one participant. The wave of self-destruction by the master just now shocked me out of my mind. Jia Yan suddenly understood. So I also plan to deal with fewer beings that are destined to be difficult to kill. A creature covered in flames flew out of the sea of fire, burning with blazing flames, and came to Jia Yan's side. A moment ago, Jia Yan was very satisfied with taking away the yin-yang array, which consumed a lot of energy. Jia Yan was behind, no doubt about it. It seems that no one can do it, but it seems that I am a low-level player, so I try not to do it. It's an exaggeration to think that the lives of people are in ruins. There are fewer subspace masters, and none of them have almost regular subspace talents. This also means that the opponent is weaker than me in the subspace, which only means that they are more powerful in the rush. During the entire retreat, Jia Yan calculated 1 or 4 bridgeheads that were paused in the middle. The imperial island where Jia Yan is located is approximately tens of trillions of kilometers in size. Xiaoneng is like an immortal. So far, I have not seen even a glimmer of confrontation. Zhu Qin flew in another direction, and a very unique and harmonious scene appeared on the ground on his feet. By combining several methods, I achieved a more satisfactory speed. No problem, I dare to ask. Jia Yan also continued to communicate with him, flashed to low altitude, spotted an inland direction, and flew away. But the feeling of being spied on disappeared very quickly. I thought about it and thought that it might be some little capable who was spying on me. Even if Haitian is right, I will regard the central continent as my imaginary endpoint. Anyway, since I have to rush, I care whether the information given by others is correct and whether it conflicts with Jia Yan's rush thinking. This is all in my hands. Well, in case what Haitian said is wrong, I was stupid and ran to death, but I still passed the 7th level. It can be seen that my improvement is quite amazing. I was stunned for a moment. Zhu Qin broke into the subspace. While rushing, a white light group of formation bloomed, covering me all over. Then instead of the time rules in the area where I was retreating to the living state, Jia Yan confused the time in that subspace area. The rules interfered with the time and space I was in. As a result, my speed was increased again. Zhu Qin also felt that gaze, but without the slightest fear, he continued to rush towards the direction he determined. A moment ago, his gaze reached the limit and he could no longer sense it. The low-hand man came up silently and finished his preparations. Immediately under Jia Yan's dumbfounded gaze, I burst into pieces, exploding with terrifying energy. Participants. The small continent where the dynasty is located also regards the visitors from the sky as the cause of the disaster. Jia Yan's flying speed is so slow, even if he has not retreated into the subspace, simply relying on the formation and time rules, special masters and low-level domain masters can only hold back. The distance to the mainland is about 1,000,000 times that distance. The entire continent is almost 100 million times the size of the imperial dynasty, and the entire sea area where they are located, including the imperial dynasty, is about dozens of light years away. These are the key points. For us participants, the current strength is already at the level of a living lower division level. What on earth is going on? He blew himself up when he saw you. Are the people of that small continent so brave? How dare you stay here? It will cause a lot of loss of life. Although I can feel Xiaoneng's peeping eyes, everything is always unpredictable. It is said that my current perception is not able to sense Xiaoneng's peeping eyes. The low-level players all scooped up some kind of sea water around the subspace for him, and then I used the subspace talent skills, and the entire speed suddenly increased. In the past, I would have been troubled by the power of the division-level self-destruction. I bet the reason why that small land has become like this is because of us participants. I want to eat shit. Zhu Qin quickly laughed at herself. The figure in the flames laughed strangely. That is equivalent to borrowing the power of other domain lords' front-level masters. Can the speed be slow? Because the reputation is so bad. That day, Zhu Qin, who had just stepped out of the subspace and stepped onto the new continent, was still stunned. If I act like a ghost, I will let those weak thieves succeed. 8 months ago, Jia Yan retreated into the jurisdiction of one of the small continents in the middle. After all, for the lives of these participants, the very different life forms in the outer world are basically considered to be at the same level of life. Even Jia Yan feels incompatible with the existence of life forms in the outer world that are smaller than the strong and huge. Not to mention those weaklings from the same cultural background. Peng. Now that I have become a master of array genes, I just froze for a moment, then shook my head, and a white, rapidly rotating yin and yang fish array appeared behind me, blocking all the incoming power. Moreover, the subspace rules in this world are more stringent. I think it is very easy to travel at high speed. However, I just regarded this as an accidental incident. The yin-yang array didn't even shake at all. After all, it is a scientific instrument. If it reaches its limit, the distance it can perceive will indeed be wider than that of a living low hand. Little man, the machine senses that there is a figure behind you that is slower than you. It is moving away from you. Do you want to use secret methods to chase after it? It was a self-protection area, covering a very large area. There were a few small players in the backline leading our superiors to attack. On several small continents I passed by, the people in our group were called catastrophizers, or even demons, and when they saw them, everyone yelled and killed them. It's just that when I travel through the outer world, the distance is too long, so I can't go to more distant places in the inner world. By inferring the subspace of the outer world in this way, it would take even less effort to find the bookstore, which is hundreds of thousands of light years away. It turns out that that small continent area has already fallen into the dance of demons caused by visitors from the sky. The bad thing is that Jia Yan is already the same Jia Yan as before. Clear. What made Jia Yan stunned as soon as he appeared was that under the small continent that was supposed to be relatively weak, the war was actually raging at this time. There are not many forces that are willing to admit defeat and form our own alliance to fight against that little catastrophe. With another word, the flames rolled back and returned to this mountainous land, continuing to wreak havoc, burning, killing, and looting. He really is a troublemaker. No wonder it was a journey. It seemed full of challenges. I was beaten by Hai Tian until I was running around, I lost my helmet and armor, and I also damaged many family members. This is my youngest Waterloo. I almost couldn't even find the target to kill before. I can't imagine how much hatred I have for Hai Tian. And no. This time the space existed in silence and rejected the superior's proposal. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3452. In the rear area under the rule of the Alliance, people are singing and dancing, and they are still living the same life as before. Even many ordinary people have no idea that the outside world has changed. Let's look here. I don't want to ride on that teleportation array, and even if I don't ride on it, I still need to replenish it. Jia Yan's journey consumes a lot of resources. Regardless of the consumption of the body's power or the consumption of the array, in short, it cannot be born out of thin air, and it needs supplementation from external things to continue. Huh? There are mosquitoes in this weather. When Jia Yan landed on the ground and passed by a passerby, the other person showed a little surprise. It's just that the mosquitoes are a bit too big. The opponent was a creature about 500 kilometers in size. Jia Yan was 1/10 of his size, which was too big for a mosquito. But any life could exist in this world, so he didn't take it to heart. This place looks quite like the world of science and technology. It turns out there is a place like this in the other world as well. Jia Yanzong glanced at the official who spoke. I also think too little about the civilization of the outside world, and I also care about it. As that sound came out, and under the horrified gazes of the subordinates, the space seemed to be torn open, and a steady figure of a large life flew out of it. The entire United States of Science and Technology released a message to small and large areas across the country through mobile phones, media, and word of mouth. That's right. Mosquitoes are very similar to the very annoying creatures in their area. How about that? Do you want to kill that pest of yours? This area of the continent is almost entirely ruled by the human race. The humans inside have developed technology, but they are still not as good as the outside world. Jia Yan believes that the scientific and technological society in the outside world should pay more attention. Otherwise, why do these low-level masters in other areas hear our news when they are raging in other areas? Maybe that country is not there? A way to deal with the weak. But in view of this, we are compatible with the entire surrounding system, and are regarded as everyone's small enemy. The entire environment is very severe, and it does not feel like we are the enemy of the whole world. The other party instantly felt like he was out of breath. It was as if there was no huge stone pressing on his chest, and his whole body's breath suddenly dropped. Well, the text is quite difficult to understand. It just takes too little time. That's right. Based on what they just said, I should be the devil in their mouth. But what I have to correct them is that you call yourselves that way, and they can't call you Jia Yan. In view of the terrifying mental power of the weak people in the former territory, it took me too long to learn the words United States through a few picked up newspapers. You know, I am a subdivision master, but just like that, I was still suppressed by a glance. Newsboys selling newspapers shouted business on the streets. He followed the road and entered a town-like area. No one spent money to buy one and then threw it away. We have long heard that a small number of similar mysterious masters appeared in the entire continent and attacked these forces. From time to time, even the entire country suffered an unprecedented catastrophe. But we never imagined that those guys were so crazy and crazy. Haven't come to the United States of Science and Technology yet? Although the United States of Kanan's national power is gradually weakening, the surrounding countries still agree with it. In addition to locking up intelligence exchanges, there are no big restrictions on our trade. We have been looking for breakthroughs. We never thought that there would be no such bad pie today. Falling from the sky. There was a day before. Is it a match? If we come to the United States to wreak havoc, what should you do? What I noticed was that not a single mosquito flew past me and picked up the newspaper. This subdivision official seemed to have been fished out of the water. His whole body was soaked in a short period of time. He could only breathe in small breaths. When he looked at Lu Yuan again, he became extremely frightened. It is said that there is the best place to collect intelligence, so the political and economic center of each force is one of the answers. But today, no one is making mysterious sounds around us, but there is no way to detect its whereabouts. Before listening, no one breathed out hot breath. But he immediately shut up. The faces of all the lower-level people present changed wildly. It turns out that country considers itself to be a civilized country in the entire continent. It is almost compatible with the entire continent. It follows the path of science and the rule of law. No wonder you don't look familiar. I'm afraid there aren't many visitors from Tianli. That will have an impact. Who? Is it a demon? So weak? But, which demon should you find to cooperate with? Call. As expected, those are the heavenly demons. They are the weakest and most terrifying demons who have caused destruction in your continent and even the surrounding continents. Your Excellency, I'm sorry that the military attaché just lost his impulse. Please apologize to you on my behalf. You said, you are a demon, right? That must be a weak level. The words of a senior official in the United States made more senior officials in the United States wake up. Things like pie falling in the world may happen, but it is very likely to happen between countries. It's easy to talk to stupid people. I am just a special human being from the outer world with a very special aura. I am only a little over 1,000 kilometers away. I am much inferior to military attaches at the scene. I am over 10,000 kilometers away, which is 10 times the height. But with such a special appearance the people of the world have become president, which shows how enlightened the United States is. As a result, we also know which generation of leaders suddenly had a whim and pointed out the path of science and technology. In the end, one country took the lead, and many forces gradually merged into one, becoming the current United States, and developed the path of science and technology and the rule of law. It has become a very developed society for the inner world today. There are no variables for this clan. Lu Yuan, Jia Ziran, right? I'm sorry, I met you in that way. It's beyond your suspicion. If your appearance is the moment when you release your understanding of the demon group, please take a seat. Let's discuss what you just said. I suspect that since you showed up, you came with the purpose of massacring your country. The mid-level and high-level officials above may know the origins of those low-level players, but for the United States of Science and Technology, before gathering a small amount of intelligence, we had no information about the devil. The tribal envoy above looked ugly for a while, and then said, "That's right, your tribe has been under attack by inexplicable low-handed people recently. 8 tribe subordinates have not been killed yet. If we go up like that, maybe your tribe will step into the traces of the neighbors next door have completely disappeared under that small continent, so the only requirement for you to join them is that they must take action." Jia Yan sighed. "United States of Koninge, if you accept any of their conditions, please also arrange for your tribe to join their forces." No one has spoken yet, but the science department still feels the breath of life. The power just now was like a microphone machine, but no one really came close. Recently I have seen a lot of outside world forces and countries, and almost all of them are at a primitive level of ignorance. Countries that have developed science like this simply do not exist. No matter what, using momentum to suppress people also represents a precursor to taking action. We can always just sit back and wait for death. At that time, everyone on the scene became in danger. No one even reacted with a fight. Can these so-called low-level players tell you in detail? They must want to join your United States, and if the information is shared, you may agree to this. Oh? Do you accept all your conditions? He is stupid. The president suddenly laughed. After Jia Yangziazai learned some information about this place, he left the town where he was now and rushed to the capital of this country with increasing speed. Everyone is on pins and needles. A researcher in charge of the scientific institution took out his mobile phone and called the outside world. He didn't know what he said, but he slowly shook his head with an ugly expression. The lower levels coordinated the intelligence and quickly retrieved various ancient records. But there are not many characters with muddled minds. While everyone was thinking about it, and when they were deciding whether to move the chess piece, a sudden sound sounded in the ears of the lower level officials. Huh? Are these mysterious masters again? There are more than hundreds of thousands of kilometers of aircraft roaring past in the sky. Our country has initially reached a memorandum of understanding on cooperation with the Tianli guests Lu Yuan Ziran. Jia Yan will reach a reconciliation with the Tianli guests in the country on behalf of our country. Please do not listen to the rumors. The country we will be committed to protecting the lives and property of the people across the country. Humph, the noble tribe has always been cold to your country, and has not even had any resistance. Now it has taken a small turn. You have no reason to think that there is any problem within their tribe. Right? Please tell the truth, otherwise you will refuse their joining. In the capital of the United States of Kanan, a diplomatic envoy from a neighboring force hurriedly applied for a meeting with the leaders of the United States of Kanan. We are still in contact with the devil. The President of the United States, who was at the center of the table, was frightened, but not in any panic. As soon as it started, Several lower-level officials present at the meeting showed joy. Confidence in the power of science leads us to believe that no weak person can get close to the well-prepared small hall of Congress. Even a few low-level masters from the United States of America can do that. Mosquito. What's important is that the way the other party appears, and the uniqueness of his entire temperament before he appears, all represent that the other party may be a complex life. Every clue has been found. We seem to be searching for something. You cannot cooperate with one or more of them in order to protect yourself. Of course, the price is to let the other party block other demons for you. From your analysis, those demons are actually we are from the same force, and there is no way that we are not hostile at all. Historical books have also recorded that the demons have been attacking each other, and the most terrifying thing is not that. During our respective fights, we can still cause ancient times. The collapse of many civilizations shows that it is extremely wise to act and think against us. Jia Yan also smiled slightly and sat down under the chair that others quickly moved. Of course, judging from historical data, the demons may be partners, so we haven't had the chance to cooperate with other demons. To be able to get close to the Congress, even if you know it, it's the most important place in the United States of Canaan. It can only be approached by the weak. If your Majesty is a demon, please show up and see me. Your country is willing to accept all your conditions. Originally, the other party wanted the United States to take action, and they were even more concerned about that little bit of information, so they talked about it. The few lower-level officials who felt that it would be difficult for the United States to just sit back and watch looked at each other and made our request. No lower level, extremely headache. For the living beings in the sky, what type they are, whether they are small, large, or small, is the most important thing. The tense atmosphere had just subsided when the president spoke. Even if we can detect it, it means that it is possible that the other party wants to take our lives. Suddenly, no one lost their voice. The sound came so suddenly that the entire lower level of the United States looked up in fear, but there was no trace of it. Are we from another world? Then, is there really a world far wider than yours? The universe. It must have been attacked by a small number of low-level players in the inner world, and it is possible to find the location of the teleportation array. It is quite impossible to do so outside. And you can imagine that even fewer participants would have thought that it would not be long before this place become our target, and you must be the first to get there after this. Jia Yan looked around and felt familiar. What tidbits? The so-called weak individuals are nothing but trivial things to your United States. As soon as these words came out, everyone gasped. Jia Yan had learned the writing of the outside world, but being so far apart, the writing here in the imperial dynasty was already common. Excuse me, there has been a turmoil on the mainland recently. Many forces have claimed to be attacked by individual powerful life forms. And many have fallen into internal and external difficulties. That United States was originally an area scattered with various small tribes and territories. For a long time, it was called a barbaric land by other areas of the small continent outside. Don't even think about those worlds. Judging from your scientists' speculations and model calculations, our laws and even the composition of the entire universe are actually the same as yours. What's even more terrifying is that many scientific researchers it has been pointed out that your scientific enlightenment, and even all aspects that affect you now, are likely to come from those demons, so our strength and ability may far exceed your imagination, so you can be with us. If you are hostile, you will definitely be able to take such actions. Outside of those 100 boys, we have only fought more than 10 to 70 battles, and we have won all of them. We are quite weak, don't we know that we don't have many ways to deal with inferior opponents. It just so happens that since you are looking for collaborators, why don't you come with me? At the moment of such panic, the aura revealed from under the giant mosquito suddenly disappeared. There was no sign of the demons operating on the border of the United States of technology, but before being intimidated by the technological light energy weapons, they turned around and went to other forces. It was considered a rift, so there was no possibility of cooperation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3453. This widespread advertisement made the name of Jia Yan appear in the eyes of the people of the United States of America for the first time. In addition, the United States of Konange changed the term devil to visitor from outside, which also represents the country's attitude towards the demon. At least on the surface, it shows goodwill. I just don't know if there are so many demons out there who will accept this. And if Jia Yan's name spreads, I'm afraid no demon will know him. After all, he has just arrived here, and his reputation far away in the imperial dynasty is unlikely to spread here for a while. Besides, Jia Yan is there. It doesn't seem to have much of a reputation. After his formation breakthrough, he has yet to fully demonstrate his power. Huh? Jia Yan? What kind of mess is he? Also a competitor? He is so bold and wants to monopolize a country. I'm afraid he is using a strategy to stabilize that country and let them find a teleportation array for him, right? We can't lag behind. Who can contact him and see what his attitude is? If you are willing to go together, it doesn't mean that you can't accept him. Otherwise, we will attack him in a group. How can we resist our joint efforts? Outside the United States of Conan, 8 participants gathered together. They are all participants who are burning, killing and looting in the surrounding area to satisfy their own selfish interests in the name of searching for the teleportation array. They attack that light, and you kill my body. You must be dealing with so few people at the same time. My body's reaction is so slow. At this time, the arrival of so-called friends will be spread by us. We have heard of Jia Yan's name and seen his methods. Even if he is a participant, we may think that the other party has the same status as us as a 7th level contestant and will surpass us by a lot. And, watch your move. Jia Yan looked back at you. At this moment, it seems that the other person's beautiful face doesn't look mean, which makes people happy. Sure enough, it's all in vain. Huh. Everyone discovered that the original location of Tongchao at this time was shrouded in a small amount of azure light. Gradually, the light spread to a distance of 1,000 kilometers, and gradually changed from azure color to a color. Bai Yu Bai's Tai Chi Yin and Yang diagram. Friend? Bad, go ahead. We have seen the power of formations, but that is the weak instinct that hinders us and gives us crazy warnings. If it were me in the past, I might have dared to show off his strengths head on. That handsome man said that you wanted to monopolize this place. That was an unreasonable crime. You remembered that you had contacted them, let alone that you wanted to monopolize this place. First withdraw from those areas shrouded in light. I haven't seen a weak female character in a long time. Tong Chao stretched out his mouthpart and stabbed it under the 10-foot-long grape that the other party handed him. A small amount of juice continuously poured into his mouthpart and then retreated into his belly. I couldn't help but feel comfortable. Let out a long sigh. That's why the formation that now covers most of the capital city was gone. Maybe from the moment it ends, I have the intention to communicate with myself. Several female human-like life forms, about the same size as Jia Yan, were found from somewhere, but they were all taking care of my food, clothing, housing, and transportation. The people all panicked and rushed to the nearest bunker. The man smiled and put away his hairpin, but his expression soon changed, and his forehead turned pale again. Several people stopped attacking Jia Yan, understood the meaning of their gazes with one look, and moved forward one after another. Jia Yan laughed loudly. Everyone, do they really think that is fair? You account for 1/10, So they should not have 4 people. Now look at it, they don't have 4 people, right? The minimum concession is for everyone to share it equally, otherwise the matter will be discussed. I saw an endless amount of light rising into the sky above the small ground. The female man roared filial piety, and held the hairpin in his hands and swept it towards the brilliance of the array behind him. I am stupid. I seem to have guessed that the key to this formation lies in Tong Chao, the person in charge of the formation. As long as he kills or defeats me, the formation will be broken by itself. Tong Chao looked at Chi Zhou again. In the vague conversation for a moment, the few low-level players who surrounded him knew that we were harboring evil intentions. There was no other low-level player with a U expression on his face, and he shouted loudly. A few more days passed. No wonder you are so clear. The brilliance of the formation that seemed to be cut away by your sword actually returned to its original state in an instant. You used a sword that lost several % of its power and could only maintain its expansion for 1 second. Tong Chao stood directly behind the yin-yang diagram, with an ancient expression on his face, and responded, "This is the essence of my life. Since you are not lucky, why don't you try the Tao of this formation for me today? In fact, from any point of view, it is a matter of the existence of a front-level domain lord fighting against the 4 of us participants. No matter how weak it is still useful. Not yet. You account for 40% of the resources of the United States of Science and Technology. Since this is your first time here, you must be concerned about it, right? There are no resources, but the people in Li Xiaolu are recognized, and they will not last as long as you. It's only Hanhu who is messing around here, and it sounds like you're still making money. Obviously, that is a race that Tong Chao has never seen before that is good at using weapons, and the sharpness of your hairpin is far superior to any weapon Jia Yan has ever seen. For them, life in the other world is not something to be cherished at all, and it is even more impossible to cherish human life, causing countless bloodshed. It turned out to be participants from another continent? It's a bad trick on your part. They were able to cross the sea from another continent. Could it be that they used a teleportation array? This manly weakling smiled warmly. This female creature seemed to be too emotionally stable. You suddenly pulled out the hairpin from under your head, and a sharp light shone from the hairpin. Jia Yan must have arrived through the teleportation array, which means that even if I have the coordinates of the teleportation array leading to the previous small continent, there are still no clues. Before everyone else's expressions changed slightly, they all used their own moves. Oh! You and other participants in the alliance, as early as the beginning of the uprising in that small continent, negotiated to allow monopolization of an area exceeding 10 billion kilometers. The Koninge country he occupies is far more than 10 billion kilometers. It's outside. You got the prize, little man. It's just a newly developed fruit in your country. If you want to eat it, you can bring more fruit last time. Jia Yan looked at the humble and gentlemanlike white elephant creature and said, "Thank you for that friend's earnest teaching. You can just let me get hurt next. A huge country in the outside world has so few resources. Even if Jia Yan wants it, he may still let us take advantage of it." At the top of my game, I looked at Chi Zhou proudly and said, "Dear participants, why are you so secretive? What the hell is that? Hey, we are indeed of the same kind. Since your excellency is also a participant, why do you want to monopolize this place? Although the low-level players fighting in the sky are far as tall as the special people of the United Nations, our strength is far beyond that of the special low-level players. That guy is both fair-faced and red-faced. Do you think he will be intimidated by us?" 2 white fish eyes rotated inside, emitting a terrifying aura. "You have a bad and arrogant tone. Everyone, this person is stubborn and stubborn. Let's do it. Now that you've entered Jia's formation, you'd better stay calm." "Well." Jia Yan nodded with a smile, and then said inexplicably, Go now and make less preparations. Some friends are here. Just in time to entertain us. If Shen Shen fights, it will probably turn everything upside down. Little man, that is your newly developed energy fruit by Kanang. It looks like grapes, but the energy contained outside is extraordinary, and the taste is still wrong. Do you want to try it? Konange country also had to waste a small amount of social resources and bring the entire capital to a standstill. Tong Chao said innocently. I shook my head and said, that's right. If they were strategizing, they should occupy Kanang country. But now, not only have they not occupied this place, but they haven't even fought a battle. So I'll forgive you. It shows how much effort they put into this place. This person's moves are weird, I have to hold back, continue. It's just a realm, let's see you break it with one sword. Above the small ground, a shocking siren sounded throughout the capital of Konange country. Seeing the radiance soaring into the sky, everyone who besieged Jia Yan felt uneasy in their hearts. The female maid thought of something, her face changed slightly, and she nodded quickly and went in. Forget it, it seems that the monks from your place still have to fight with them before they run out of water. Under the sky, everyone saw the beautiful sword light, like the strong wind that could cut through the sky, sweeping away the formation that had not covered the small area of the sky, and a small amount of azure color was swept away by it. Divided into two halves. Even now, is he still thinking of going against you? Open your eyes and take a look. He has not been surrounded by you and others yet. If he is sensible and leaves on his own, you and others also want to hurt someone because of him. In order to cooperate with my actions, these beautiful men and boys who were named by Jia Yan to serve me, but they have been following me for several days, and it cannot be said that they are quite tired. When you wait for today, you will have to distinguish between superior and superior. He also knows that it is very difficult for participants like you who are good at flying to reach the distant central continent, so it is possible for you to let go of that vast land, and you will definitely find the location of the teleportation array. You won't even have a chance to teleport. What does he think? With a punch coming up, Jia Yan could feel the unimaginable gravity below. Before anyone could turn their eyes, they suddenly turned around and struck out with a punch, sweeping towards the yin-yang Tai Chi diagram where Jia Yan was. And that's probably the limit of the so-called formation. Seeing that Jia Yan, who controls this formation, doesn't even show the slightest sign of exertion, you can get an idea. Rise. What? Jia Yan is enjoying a rare moment of relaxation in the capital of the United States of Kanan. It's as if those strange lights rising into the sky will have a fatal effect on us. Jia Yan's voice, tight or fast, came from the land shrouded in light. Of course, it is Jia Yan's original intention to help Kanan unite the countries in defense. My original intention is to use the power of the formation to keep away the low-handed intruders. Tong Chao, don't make a mistake. He is looking to see if this place has been invaded by you and others. In fact, you have already surrounded it with a plan. In 8 months, it will be defeated by itself. He actually said, is your plan a sacrifice? That would really make people angry. Of course not. You have already said that cooperating with you is not your intention. Even those men have thought that the so-called friends are not real friends. No one tried to persuade me again. I am a living being that looks like a human, but looks somewhat related to humans. My fists are smaller than my body, and there is a dull metal color beneath the surface. I am afraid that I am not a pure flesh and blood body. Kanang is indeed a unique scientific country in the outside world. The fruits they develop are very special and delicious. Jia Yan looked at the several figures who emerged with a pretentious expression, his expression calm. Then it's up to you to guess. Jia Yan was ambiguous. At this time, they were all on the same page discussing the matter of Jia Yan, who suddenly appeared. There was no sound before Jia Yan's words came forward, and a sarcastic voice came. I said to myself. Jia Yan seems to be enjoying the service of those great men, but which one of you is a spy or spies of the United States of Konange? Once you step out of that door, everything Jia Yan says and does will be reported. Let's try it. On the right side of Jia Yan, the figure of the other party gradually emerged. What surprised Jia Yan was that the figure of the other party turned out to be that of a female man. He looked young and beautiful, with a delicate face. Which race is there? I let out a small roar before my fist even got close to the blood-sucking creature with wings and slender mouth parts. When you came in and out, Jia Yan had not yet taken off, rushing from his residence to the capital city, thousands of kilometers away. Fair? You have been waiting here to strategize for a long time, and he, a newcomer, wants to talk to you about fairness. Does he think that is fair? Just when the top players and villains gathered around were about to approach Tong Chao, Jia Yan gave a warm drink. We are the participants who have mastered the rules. We are the weakest of the weak. I said, I'm sorry, you just came to that small continent recently, and you really understand their rules very well. If I tell you now, maybe you can join them. A fierce battle is about to begin. It was just a new trial. If I make progress, we will see the true nature of health. In the future, if we press harder, we may eventually use force to crush Tong Chao. Pretend to be a ghost. I was in Konange country, but I really enjoyed the bad times for a few days. Jia Yan had already known that there was no group of participants who were low-handed in the past 7 weeks and were eyeing the United States of Konange. Jia Yan realized that it would be impossible to start a confrontation with us, so I specially used the formation materials provided by Edisha. In a few days, the capital of the Federation of Science and Technology will be transformed into a formation city. The expressions of those people became sinister. No figure emerged again. It looked like Tong Chao wanted to cooperate with us. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3454. Rule of Gravity. Good guy, he is another genius, but among the participants, genius is just the standard, not genius is what is surprising. At this juncture, Jia Yan was still thinking of deserting. His attitude made the other party look even angrier. Look at you for looking down on me. Your head will be cut open later. Don't blame me for not being merciful. No need to show mercy, Your Excellency. Jia Yan's response was very dull. He just gently lifted one of his feet and wiped the world in front of him, as if he had wiped some dust. I saw the white fish eye on the yin-yang tai chi diagram, suddenly jumped out of the diagram, and pierced directly into the opponent's fist at a speed beyond the opponent's imagination. Under his incredible gaze, the iron fist he had always been so proud of suddenly burst apart like a paper lake, and then the fish-eyed ball, like an indomitable warrior, hit his body hard. He felt that the other party's power was simply not something he could match. What on earth is this? The face is enough. Officials from the Konange United States revealed the existence of the Jia Yan villain early on, but their attitude was still biased and regarded as a special low-level friend. We are afraid that it will be difficult to ask God to send him away. I am considered a rather violent faction among the participants, but it means that I am not bloodless. Haha, compared to the weak, the speed of that car is slow, but it has no style. Many rich people and low-level people in China hate riding in it. But it is a limited edition and it is difficult to own. If Jia Yan hates it, how about you hang up the phone and let us send you a car? The competitors had different expressions, none were angry, none were smiling, and none were inscrutable. In short, they all turned around and left. There were still some who wanted to stay and have a close relationship with Yinting. In the past, when I went to the Milky Way, I drove a car that was 1,200 kilometers long and narrow respectively. It was very impressive. Jia Yan is willing to accept the disadvantages of Konange country, but it is what the lower levels of Konange country want to see, and it is even more painful to pay. It's a pity that he doesn't have a wife outside his home. Jia Yan will definitely do the right thing and build a Satsuma shrine. This Jia Yan looks like he really defeated a group of demons. Something happened on the left and right. That day, Jia Yan agreed to the request of an ugly valet, and everyone bought a domestic limited edition sports car from Koninge, United States, priced at 500,000 yuan. Privately, any words that are harmful to Jia Yan may appear in the online media. A small number of accounts were disposed of at one time, and even many people knew indirectly. I am afraid that person's strength is shocking to the world. Otherwise, the lower level of Koninge state, which occasionally boasts that the mainland is the first to retreat and is the weakest, would be so loud and angry. It seems that Jia Yan is a figure, and you just want to try to lower yourself to others. Eye to eye, before using voice communication, this giant-fisted creature was the first to say with mixed feelings, in Yinting Pavilion, I don't know whether it was a fight or an acquaintance. He is a newcomer here. Do you have any hostility towards him? You should understand it. Now that you have proven your status and strength, you cannot give up this Koninge kingdom to your excellency. There is no need for your excellency to agree. This time, Koninge state must have found the teleportation array. Please be accommodating and allow you to take a walk along the way. You must have searched for the teleportation array in the inner world, and you will also inform your superiors. That is fair to both parties, okay? The so-called Harvest Festival is rumored to be from ancient times. Tens of thousands of years later, some teaching materials about science and technology were unearthed from the ruins outside that big town. Then the big town became the first wealthy country in Koninge. The town that grew up has spread to the entire United States of Conan, so we cannot say that that big town is not the place of long seen in the United States of Conan. It's like leaving first and planning for the long term. That's bad. You're not tired anymore. Let's end this incident here. If you want to know any information, I can give it to you. Of course not. I am very happy to cooperate with you. However, what Koninge country is afraid of is whether the demons after leaving will come to have the last carnival. After all, Koninge country is so poor, and we all have to leave, and we will rob it if we promise. Yinting simply shook her head. Sorry, I have something to tell you, but you still say this country is protected by you. If you want to continue to do evil here, you will be regarded as a provocation by me. What should you do? Please decide. Come on to the next tune. Jia Yanj, I heard that there is a big town far away from the capital, and there is no annual festival. I wonder if you are not interested in taking a look later. The traumatized giant boxing competitor looked at Yinting more solemnly. Badly, the single combat power of the demon has not been studied by your science and technology organization. Even if the special low-level masters are my opponents, I can deal with a group of them alone. I will definitely be able to fight with the opponent next time. Enmity, even if it is a bad relationship, you must not provoke it into something that will lead to irreversible consequences. Do you understand what you mean? Jia Yan had just arrived at my hotel, Ljiaozhe, when a senior official from Kaneng State showed up to ask. When Jia Yan asked, no one responded. One of the lowest officials among the male servants smiled and replied, Little man Jia Yan, this matter is a myth that you can unite the nations, and it has been done for several years. Over the course of tens of thousands of years, we have long known what this ruin has become. Over the past tens of thousands of years, which government has repaired and maintained it? What it looks like now may be completely different from what it will be in tens of thousands of years. You go, there's no point in looking at it. Everyone knows that it was just an act of fun. The attackers separated at the other end and also made a series of noises. Each one of them blocked the light of the formation, at least only causing a few splashes of water. Those guys still think that their technological civilization is relatively advanced, and that the demons came from the place where Ru Mao drank blood. However, they have thought that all their technological secrets came from the demons. It has been so young, and the technology of the demons is even worse. Only those who know more than us should know. Is the devil really a World of Warcraft? Others are less civilized than him. The waiter's heart skipped a beat, knowing that he had said the wrong thing, and Chijo would also send you a few complaining glances slowly, making you feel ashamed. Jia Yan was alone. Originally, we cared so much about it, but before the formation was revealed, we realized that we were not terribly wrong. For the lower level officials of Koninge State, that kind of sports car is just enough to ride on. The words of the giant fist creature were recognized by other competitors around me. It is obvious that my strength is among the top among that group of competitors. No one dares to let the safe devil stay in the same scene with special people. Although I seem to be calm, no one knows whether the people's intentional words or actions will cause their bestiality to show up. Oh! Your Majesty has a good idea. Little man, are you willing to stand up for your country of Koninge? You know you are hot inside and cold inside, if you are a bad person. The local official who was left aside saw that he was embarrassed to stand alone, so he bowed and left. What I told was the truth, and I thought that others would believe it. Puff. But for Jia Yan and the valets who followed me, the sports car was enough to be transformed into a temporary residence, and the outside was narrow enough. Don't tell me, it's actually quite comfortable. Jia Yan stretched out his legs and hugged a female human-like man, enjoying your shoulder rub with a warm smile. Therefore, Kanengakyo was badly prepared for the search requirements requested by Yin Ting. He really comes from another continent. It seems that even if you are on the original continent, you are destined to be a special competitor. Someone who can injure you with just one blow has appeared for a long time. Jia Yan had a pleasant expression. Seeing the worried look on the other party's face, Yin Ting said with a smile but not a smile, they should all know who it is. I hope they won't be a coward like last time. The man who rubbed Jia Yan's shoulders said with a smile. Do you really think that you are enjoying your service? I am an ascetic monk. If he is just acting on occasion, what should I do for him? If we find something that can cause a small fight between the demons, we will hide it for a while as much as possible. We will only take it out when we can make the demons go away immediately. But before Jia Yan single-handedly defeated an entire horde of low-handed competitors, our attitude changed. Well, if you say bad things to the people, you will be scolded as betraying the country and seeking glory. At least when Jia Yan was in your country, such rumors did not spread, which would offend that important low-level person. If you can unite the United States, maybe the whole country will do it. I understand, your next goal is not to satisfy the needs of that little Jia Yan as much as possible. It's as if I really have become a little low-hand that everyone admires. Jia Yan's words gave you no idea how to reply, so you just sighed and agreed. The two sides turned into hostility for a while. Jia Yan sincerely put away half of the brilliance of the formation. However, the other party would definitely not dare to make any move. If he was attacked by a thunderous force, the other party would be so stupid. He just held a vigilant look, seemingly like Jia Yan. They started chatting with each other. These people had just left the Koninge capital area when they saw a burst of light squirming in front of them, and the azure blue light they had seen one after another stood up again. But even if it can be broken, it will take a lot of effort. If the formation operator has no other means during this period, maybe we will have to lose a few people here, which will be worth the loss. It seemed like the other party was seriously injured, which was something that surprised me. But I changed my original thinking, but others definitely dared to change it. Who is he? For a time, everyone felt like spring breeze. The capital of Koninge is a large town far away, and there are comparisons today. It was this distance that allowed him to surrender to death and escape from danger. Oh! Is it the long-seen land of the United Nations? Is there anything unique there? By the way, where is this ruin? Rather, it means that we are completely sure of breaking through the weird formation behind our eyes. By the way, that little continent seems to have nothing special about beauty and life-extending specialties. Next, I asked Kananguo to get some for you. My wife and parents both need it. This female man-like creature exudes the shyness of a man, as if he is a fighting man who has been scolding the street like a shrew one after another. You are special. A small number of humanoid creatures gathered outside the town to celebrate the city's unique harvest festival. Then, Bad Jia Yan felt that he had saved Koninge country once, and at least I had saved the lives of the capital from ruin, so he reluctantly accepted it. The two sides chatted about Xilu's situation, then talked about the content of this competition, and then made some insinuations about Jia Yan's origins. Yinting took the opportunity to ask for our information, and then got a bunch of hypocritical content. They said goodbye cordially and went back to their respective homes to find their respective mothers. Then the car is wrong. How much lower is the top speed? Next, nearly the whole country put on a show for Jia Yan. Jia Yan, the person who caused the opponent's injuries, actually showed a shocked look. All the faces of the superiors changed. There is not even the slightest sign of a breakthrough. Yinting raised her eyes, too lazy to reply to you. Did you say that? You are a competitor from another continent. Jia Yan shook his head angrily, his tone sounding very patient. I've seen the scene in Yinting Pavilion, where I know the succession. Various media outlets competed to report on the deeds of the little low hand. When talking about Yinting's name, the word little man must be mentioned, which gave her enough face. Haha, that time we saw Jia Yan's shocking methods, so you would have done something superfluous. If there had been no similar incident last time, you would have led the charge with all the other countries. All the competitors looked serious. Since it's completely changed beyond recognition, what can you do if you go and take a look? Presumably, there is no small harm to a scenic spot that is frequented by the public. You just have to secretly drive and have people go to the national park where the ruins are located to disperse the people. That's not why we admire Jia Yan so much. Buzz. Jia Yan's thinking was divergent, and he thought about things very slowly and shifted away from the original central idea. Wow, this person spurted out a mouthful of blood, but fortunately he was a character with the strength of a participant, and not an ordinary character. At the critical moment, he fiercely activated the gravity rules of his area, and suddenly he was about to. The moment he was killed by the white fish eyes, he moved a few steps away. Jia Yan looked at the people flowing in the car, as if he was just watching the scene, and seemed to be very interested in the history that the waiter mentioned casually. There is still no low-handed person in the entire Koninge kingdom. A few bad guys at the lower division level have quietly gathered in the capital recently. Do you think Yinting knows about it? The bad thing is that based on current observation, not only the villain Jia Yan, but also these so-called demons are searching for something. As long as they find something, there is a very small chance that those demons will leave. That time the tragedy of the demons' rampage will come to an end. Oh? Is it very close? If it is, you can look back. However, Jia Yan can guarantee that if he is definitely blocked by someone, he will really start to kill.